What's up, guys? It's your boy Omnisensei back with part 6 of Reborn in Naruto OC broadcasts the future to the Shinobi world. If you enjoy my content, consider buying me a coffee, link in the description. Like the video, share, and subscribe. Remember to check out the author of this fantastic fanfic. Link in the description. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. At that moment, Uchiha Fugaku was shocked. Since he fused Uchiha Itachi's eyes and both eyes evolved into Eternal Mangekyo, this was the first time he couldn't see an opponent's movement. He originally thought that he, who had awakened the Eternal Mangekyo, was also an existence standing at the top of the pyramid in the Shinobi world. But now it seemed he was far from it. He could only see the two of them swinging and attacking non-stop, but he couldn't see their movements at all. Both of them, now that they had given up on defense, were attacking each other frantically. Fists, elbows, knees, and even heads had become their most powerful weapons. The two fists opposed each other, and indescribably terrifying air pressure was instantly released. In the next moment, the two had been blown away by the powerful air pressure. Huff, huff, huff. The fourth Reikage was panting fiercely and looking very excited. He hadn't experienced a battle full of excitement since he became a Kage. Yes. Ha 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 ha, my guy, if you weren't from Konoha, I would have invited you back to our Kamagakure. A looked at Might Guy admiringly. Being able to compete with himself in this state, he had recognized Might Guy's position as the #1 Taijutsu user in the Shinobi world. After all, his ninjutsu wasn't considered a pure physical art at all. My strongest attack is coming next, Guy, you should be careful. Hearing the other party's reminder, Might Guy's expression remained unchanged. After the attack just now, his body had reached its limit. I can only use that now. Might Guy's body leaned down, his hands clenched the ground, and his body pulled back as far as possible as if he was getting ready. But the momentum of his body was rapidly increasing. Until a certain moment, his momentum instantly reached its peak. Night Guy. Along with a loud cry from Might Guy, the red steam on his body instantly erupted. The red vapor resembled fire and gathered rapidly on Might Guy, making it impossible to tell if they were flames or vapors. They converged, compressed, reconverged, and recompressed frantically, and finally formed an unimaginably terrifying image amidst the horrified gazes of the entire Shinobi world. A red dragon. It was red in color, majestically coiled there, emanating a violent and almost destructive chakra fluctuation. This everyone in the Shinobi world was watching Might Guy in shock. How could he still unleash such a terrifying technique? Morning peacock, daytime tiger, evening elephant, and night guy. Holy shit. The crowd in the Shinobi world didn't know what else to say. These powerful techniques, taking out any one of them, were enough for a clan to pass on as the clan's specialized technique. And that Might Guy, he knew all of them. Fuck. What the hell? We are all God's favorite children. Why are you so strong, and I'm floundering? Heaven is unfair. Heaven's so cold to me. For a while, no one thought of looking at the shocked expression on the fourth Reikage. They were already stupefied by Might Guy's performance. It made sense that he could kill Shimura Danzo in seconds. They could also accept that he could kill the Mizukage, Terumi-mei, in seconds too. They could also tolerate that he was stronger than Inoki and A. However, are you Doraemon? Pulling out new abilities from time to time, the next one stronger than the one before, the next one more outrageous than the one before. How could we tolerate this? They all suspected that this Might Guy must have a stronger attack method than Night Guy. It's just that a shadow level enemy was too weak for him. Weak to the point that it wasn't enough for him to use the technique that was actually suppressed at the bottom of the pile. Such a pity in Konoha, root space. Shimura Danzo was lost in thought as he sat in the main seat. When he saw the daytime tiger, he felt very stable. No one could break free from Kodomatsukami. He was a little worried when he saw Might Guy using the evening elephant. It was common knowledge in the Shinobi world that raging chakra would interrupt an illusion technique, and Might Guy's chakra was wildly explosive, which made him a little worried. But now, seeing that terrifying dragon-like taijutsu, Shimura Danzo wasn't worried at all. He was relieved. He knew that his idea wouldn't work. In the presence of such raging chakra, Shimura Danzo believed that any illusion technique would be reduced to nothing. Forget it, forget it. Might Guy, such a person, is not someone I can mess with. I don't have the means to control him. He isn't as gullible as Uchiha Shisui and Uchiha Itachi. He also isn't unable to withstand mockery from the village people like Hadexakumo. There's nothing I can do compared with the perception of Night Guy in the video from around the world. The feelings of the fourth Reikage were the truest. Terrifying. Truly terrifying. Under the terrifying chakra of the red dragon, the clothes of the fourth Reikage and the loose skin on his face were blown against his body and stuck tightly. Feeling the momentum of the red dragon, the fourth Reikage felt like a fallen leaf in the storm. He could be torn apart at any time. Strongly suppressing the violent beating of his heart, the fourth Reikage looked at the terrifying red dragon in front of him. The dragon's head was ferocious, the golden dragon eyes were staring at him, the angry eyebrows were rising, and the big nostrils exhaled red chakra. The fourth Reikage saw it clearly. In the dragon's head, red cracks appeared on Might Guy's body. So, you've reached your limit too. The fourth Reikage's expression fluctuated several times and finally turned into a sigh. Unfortunately, this is a move that I really can't block. In the dragon's head, Might Guy let out a beastly roar from his mouth, and in the next moment, his body shot out. The duel arena exploded again, and the raised debris instantly flew up. In the next moment, it was turned into dust by the horrible pressure in the arena. At the same time, the fourth Reikage was across Might Guy. He looked at the red dragon that was about to devour him, flying head-on. His heart had no more fluctuations. Originally, he wanted to kill Might Guy with his strongest attack. Now, he simply gave up. If he couldn't beat him, what's the point of showing them an embarrassing scene for the rest of the shinobi world to see? The fourth Reikage shook his head and folded his arms in front of his chest, ready to find a less shameful death pose. He really wanted to laugh right now. Laugh at his own ineptitude from beginning to end. Laugh at his own daring words. Laugh at Might Guy's red dragon taijutsu. Haha, you call this taijutsu? Motherfucker. You call this taijutsu? If this is fucking taijutsu, what I've learned all these years were just elementary children's gym class. Hyuga's gentle fist was swim class for fucking babies. If this thing is taijutsu, okay, in the future, you, Might Guy, shouldn't say that you only know taijutsu. Simply say that no one else in the shinobi world knows taijutsu, except for you. You brat. TSK. The fourth Reikage disdained. For the first time, he found that the exam space was really shameless. That thing was the one who chose Might Guy as the chosen one. If someone could win, it would be a damn miracle. When a loud bang came, the fourth Reikage didn't feel the pain. In the next moment, he had returned to Kumagakure. Opening his eyes, he saw the dull eyes of the group of Kumo shinobi. He felt a little embarrassed. He, the Reikage, lost to a jonin of Konoha. Reikage-sama. You're back, hahaha, Reikage-sama, you're too strong. Yes, you're much better than the old Tsuchikage. He couldn't even make Might Guy pull out that technique. The astonished reaction of the group of people made A look puzzled. He found that these people behaved differently from what he imagined. Aren't they supposed to be mocking me? All doubts disappeared after watching the video diary handed over with Jinjutsu for safekeeping. He turned his head to look at Chiyo, who had arrived outside the duel arena and left after 3 minutes, and Senju Tsunade, who was trapped in a valley. He raised his eyebrows. Some shallow tears and laughter rose up. He didn't expect he would be the one who persisted the longest. Although he lost, but in terms of duration, was the position of the commander of the Shinobi Alliance still his? For a while, A's eyes looked wet as he laughed. Although what happened in the arena shocked the whole world, everyone else in the exam space didn't know about it. 5 minutes had passed before they knew it, and the poison circle around the field had been refreshed once again. Unfortunately, Tsunade was located on a corner of the poisonous fog that had just covered half of the valley. The pair of amber eyes blinked. Tsunade stretched out her hand and pointed her finger at the poisonous fog in front of her. Warning, you have been exposed to the secondary poisonous fog, and are losing 0.02 units of health per second. You triggered the passive skill. Adaptation. You are newly adapted to the poisonous fog. The amount of health loss is reduced by 40%. Tsunade's gaze moved slightly as she flipped her palm, and suddenly 10 military rations pills appeared in her hand. Then, she tried to put her arm out. Sure enough, with the increase of the contact area between her body and the poisonous fog, her health loss also accelerated. In the same way, her adaptability had also increased. Tsunade leaped forward and licked her lips, her gaze firm. She darted her head into the poisonous mist and took a sharp breath. There are 55 people left. At another boundary of the secondary poison circle, Conan, with 7 health units above her head, looked thoughtfully at the top right corner of the map, showing the remaining number of people. She had already killed 3 people. They were all people who just ran out of the poisonous fog, and had only 1 or 2 units of health left. There was no time to react, so she secretly attacked and killed them. That was why she was at the edge of the poison fog. At the moment, she was counting her harvest. 4 pairs of Mangekyo, 3 explosive tags, 3 kunai. Looking at her own inventory, Conan turned her gaze to the red pillar of smoke, like a beacon not far away, with a somewhat hesitant look. Just now, she saw an orange box full over there. Then, red fireworks appeared from that direction. Conan knew that it was an airdrop, which contained something several times more precious than the explosive tags. It was worth mentioning that, for some reason, in this exam, the presence of explosive tags was extremely rare. Conan had searched so many places and even killed 3 people, only to collect 3 explosive tags. With my intermediate Sharingan, secondary fire release, secondary water release, and secondary earth release, plus 3 explosive tags this time, no matter who I meet, I should be able to return in one piece. Thinking of this, Conan instantly made a decision and moved in that direction cautiously. This airdrop was so close to her that she had to go and see it. If she got the chance, she would answer the questions and take away the contents of the airdrop. If not, she would see if there was any possibility of using her explosive tags to ambush others. Meanwhile, as Conan felt her way toward the airdrop, a group of eyes, either with white or scarlet eyes, also moved toward the airdrop location. According to the rules, aside from defeating the chosen one, there were only 2 ways to earn rewards from the exam space in this exam. One was to enter the top 5 of this exam, and the other was to get the airdrops. To be precise, the latter's reward was the items inside the airdrop. Yes, according to the exam rules given from the exam space, only 24 airdrops would be dropped for each exam. The items in each airdrop were random. Although they couldn't be taken out of the exam space, there was a certain probability of obtaining rare jutsu. Moreover, those who used the jutsu would learn how to channel the chakra and a way to form the seals. In other words, whoever took the airdrop box with jutsu in it could learn a powerful and rare jutsu. That was why everyone was flocking towards airdrops. Jutsu was the most precious resource in the shinobi world. This was the reason why the shinobi from the big clans were stronger than the shinobi from civilian families. Besides resources, there was also the inside information for jutsu, which was no longer a gap that could be bridged by efforts and passion alone. Therefore, if there was an opportunity to get the exam space reward, who would want to give it up? Getting a reward from being in the top 5 was too hard. Some self-aware people had long given up this method of getting the rewards. So, they chose another way. Therefore, when the airdrops had just fallen from the sky, they raced in the direction of where it landed. But unfortunately, people not only died from running wild in the mountains, but they could also die while running wildly looking for an airdrop. They were much farther away from the airdrop than Conan, so Conan was the first one to arrive at the airdrop. On the screen in front of her, the number of people was already halved, which meant that those people had been eliminated. At the moment, with the airdrop landing, everyone watching the live broadcast was immediately drawn to the event. Things aren't looking good for this Byaku. There were even 2 fierce people who had 10 health units on their bodies. This meant that their skills had evolved at least 4 times. After all, it had been a while since the exam started, and now almost everyone's health bar had changed. And their eyes, although none of them had been transformed into advanced Sharingan or Byakugan, they were all intermediate eyes. Intermediate Sharingan, Mangekyo. Mangekyo has the ability to see movement in slow motion and high-intensity resistance towards Jinjutsu, weakens Taijutsu damage to a certain extent, and enhances the damage of one's own Taijutsu attack. Terumi Mei glanced at the introduction to the intermediate Sharingan in the survival exam, and looked slightly moved. Seeing Mangekyo with various patterns in the exam space, Terumi Mei recalled Sasuke's eyes when he defeated Shimura Danzo. In the video, it shows Sasuke's eyes at that time should be Sharingan's Mangekyo. Terumi Mei's eyebrows raised at the thought of Sasuke's blue chakra giant. There were so many Mangekyo owners in the exam space, but no one had used that ability. Could it be that that is a technique that only the advanced Sharingan could possess? Thinking about it, Terumi Mei's face suddenly became curious. If she had guessed correctly and the ability of the advanced Sharingan was that giant, then what kind of ability at the same level, advanced Byakugan, would look like? Terumi Mei smiled faintly as she watched the crowd that kept converging to the airdrop. She knew that soon, the advanced eyes would be born. Congratulations, you found a treasure chest that was left behind. You have 3 opportunities. Please name a kunoichi that will die alone. As Conan touched the airdrop, an exam question instantly appeared in front of her. At the same time, seeing the exam question on Conan's screen, everyone in the shinobi world showed a malicious smile on their faces. They didn't expect the exam space to be so bizarre and come up with a question like this. The kunoichi that would die alone. The group of people looked at Conan curiously, wondering what kind of answer she would give. Conan blinked her big eyes innocently, and she was a little dazed for a while. She knew she had to answer a question to unlock the airdrop, so she made some preparations. But she didn't realize that the treasure chest would ask her a question that had nothing to do with ninjutsu. This Conan's eyebrows were slightly wrinkled. She was more of a shut-in. Not to mention knowing any lonely old women, besides herself, she only knew Senjutsu Nade and Tsurumime. After all, there was no other kunoichi besides her and Akatsuki. Conan pondered for 2 seconds. She had a feeling that the correct answer to the question was herself. After all, until she died in the original timeline, Nagato's body didn't recover, and Yahiko wasn't revived. In that situation, she never even talked about love. There was a gleam of wisdom in Conan's eyes. As the analysis of the exams, she didn't expect that Senjutsu Nade would be the wrong answer. It shouldn't be. Could it be that because Jiraiya's future changed due to the exam space, Tsunade's fate changed as well? Or perhaps I made the wrong guess. After losing Jiraiya, Senjutsu Nade didn't choose to die alone, but accepted someone else. One question after another appeared in Conan's mind, which made Conan somewhat confused about the current situation. She was a little confused as to whether the exam space question was for a fixed future in the original timeline, or a new uncertain future now. Conan continued to ponder, and her brain was running rapidly. At the time of the first exam, the future of the shinobi world hadn't been changed by anyone yet, so Senjutsu Nade wasn't with Jiraiya in that timeline. But now the answer was wrong. Conan's gaze twitched. She had a way of verifying her suspicions. After all, no one knew themselves better than themselves. Second answer. Conan. Incorrect answer. There is one more opportunity. Seeing that she wasn't the correct answer, Conan's face instantly changed. She knew it. She understood. She believed that she must be the correct answer from the original timeline. But now she wasn't, which meant this was a new uncertain future brought by the exam space. Now, anyone's decision and movements would affect the future exam questions from the exam space. Sure enough, the future is always changing. Conan's eyes flashed. She then looked at the words incorrect answer on the screen, and a complicated expression instantly appeared on her face. I will find someone. Who will this person be? Conan's mood at this moment was like that of a young girl who went to a fortune teller to ask about her future marriage. Originally, she was ready to live a lifetime of boldness and love no one, but suddenly she was told that, congratulations, you will have a family of your own. The complexity of Conan's emotion could be imagined. She was even in a trance. This was is he someone around me? Conan's heart was in a mess. Now, she was very curious about that person. If nothing else, she simply wanted to know who the other party was. Eliminating the people she knew one by one, Conan couldn't find a suitable candidate. Please continue to answer the question. The prompt in front of her eyes brought Conan back to her senses. She suppressed all the emotions in her mind, took a deep breath, and answered. Third answer. Mizukichi, Tsurumime. Conan didn't know if she got the right answer. But Conan didn't know about other women either, so she simply answered with whatever there was left. In Kurigakure, hearing her name, Tsurumime's head was full of question marks. She felt offended. A pair of beautiful eyes looked down and looked into her own body. What caught her eyes were two large upright masses, not the tips of her toes. It looked like a casual pose with one hand propped up, but Tsurumime was actually measuring her waistline. She touched her own face, well, still soft. After everything was done, Tsurumime looked up at Conan, and a trace of anger appeared in her eyes. I have elegance, body, and status ending up alone. Tsurumime looked at Conan with disdain, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of her lips. She made up her mind. This time, when the allied shinobi forces attacked Omegakure, she would be her enemy. When she was in the first exam, she fooled her with those tears. But now, how dare she insult me? I'll reduce you to ashes with my love or release. Correct answer. Congratulations, you have obtained the forbidden technique. Tandem explosive tags. Through a single explosive tag, trillions of explosive tags are induced, and an infinite explosion will be triggered. A rank jutsu, with a cooling time of 1 hour. Occupies skill bar. 2. Seeing the jutsu's introduction, Conan froze. She completely froze. She didn't know that there was such a technique in the shinobi world. This wasn't exactly the same as the thing she needed and wanted to look for. Why should she spend so much of Kakuzu's money on materials if she knew there was such a technique? Why does she have to work so hard to make the explosive tags? Why would she have to feel sorry for Kakuzu if she knew there was such a technique? If she had known there was such a technique earlier, she wouldn't believe it. Ichihabito, that guy, could still avoid her 600 billion explosive tags with the power of one eye. Alas, she was suffering the loss of being uneducated. Conan quickly threw away the 2 jutsu on her own skill bar, and replaced them with the tandem explosive tags. Then she moved, took out an explosive tag, and hid it under the airdrop box. Correct. Correct, she got it right. Am I going to die single? No, it's impossible. In Kurigakure, staring at Conan, who was ready to ambush others, Terumi hadn't reacted from her days. Because of her status and position, she never thought about her problem, but why would I die alone? Could it be because no one was worthy of me? Terumi's expression was slightly moved. She carefully pondered over it and increasingly felt that her guess was reasonable. As the titular Mizukage, if she wanted to be with a man, either he had to be of higher status than her, stronger than her. Otherwise, what would make him capable of standing together with her? When it came to status, Terumi didn't think anyone else in the current shinobi world could have a chance. The cage was already at the top of the pyramid of the shinobi world. As far as identity was concerned, only a daimon of a country was better than a cage. However, those pop-lead wine drinkers, Terumi felt that she would never be blind enough to glance their way even if she died. But in terms of strength, the men of Kurigakure were definitely out of luck. As she didn't want to die alone, did she really need to look for men from other villages? Terumi flinched, then blinked twice. The formation of the allied shinobi forces had advanced forward. Some things will change sooner or later, maybe suddenly. Terumi looked away and turned her gaze to a certain screen. Since she was looking for a powerful man to stand beside her, that hot man may be a good choice. Her pink tongue licked her lips. Terumi's gaze became more and more seductive. Just as Mizukage Terumi was imagining things, Conan, who had just touched the airdrop, was surrounded by a group of people. Shit, you beat me to it. You, put down the stuff from the airdrop. Red cloud robe. It's Akatsuki. Damn it. Are you from Akatsuki? Seeing Conan's red cloud robe, the group of people immediately recognized Conan's identity, and their faces suddenly darkened. They didn't want to be enemies with Akatsuki, but it was very likely that this would be the only opportunity for them to get the exam space's reward in their lifetime, and they couldn't give it up. Stiffening their hearts and relying on a large number of people, they feigned calmness and said, Akatsuki's Conan. Please hand over the contents of the airdrop. That's right, hand over the contents of the airdrop, and we'll let you go. In the crowd's encirclement, Conan calmly looked at the group surrounding her. There's only one thing in the airdrop. There are 14 of you. How would you split it? Would you like to choose one person first? Don't believe her. She's trying to sow discord. Hearing Conan's words, one of the two people with 10 health units on their heads shouted fiercely. She's acting so mysterious. The airdrop item must be a jutsu. Everyone, work together and kill her before she uses the jutsu, so the jutsu will be dropped. Let's get the jutsu dropped first and discuss the ownership of jutsu afterward. Everyone hesitated for a moment when they heard his words, and then they all agreed. They were all shinobi and have worked together in missions more than others. The jutsu was ready to be fired, aimed directly at Conan. Just when the crowd was in a tense standoff, rampant laughter was heard. Ha 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 ha, Byaku-san, let me help you. When they looked up, they saw two red cloud black robes moving slowly toward their direction, with long health bars on their heads. The crowd was shocked to see that there were more than 10 units of health on each. Damn it. It's Akatsuki's Tadara and Sasori. In the crowd, someone recognized them immediately. More than 10 units of health on their bars, meaning each of them killed at least 4 people. It also meant that they had unlocked 3 skills and evolved at least 4 times. Come on, give way. Tadara walked with a swagger, pushed away the frozen people in front of him, and followed Sasori into the encirclement. The two turned around, the 3 forming a back-to-back formation, and Tadara lowered his voice. Ha 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 ha, Byaku-san, you're touched, aren't you? How many levels have you Earth Release? Mudwall upgraded to. Conan's words made Tadara stare. Earth Release. What decent higher level shinobi would use Earth Release? No, my skills are 5 Release level 3, 5 Release level 2, and 5 Release level 1. My Earth Release is level 2. Sasori's voice came in a muffled sound, causing Conan's face to show a hint of regret. Seeing the regret on Conan's face, Sasori also had some curiosity. What's the matter, Byaku? Nothing, just curious. Level 2 Earth Release, why do you have the courage to come and die with me? Tadara and Sasori were stunned by Conan simultaneously, so they turned around and saw Conan's rapidly moving hand seals. Ninja technique. Tandem explosive tags. Seals. She's making a seal. Damn, it's the jutsu from the airdrop. Quick, stop her. 5 Release. Great Fireball technique. 5 Release. Dragon Fire technique. Lightning Release. Lightning Blade double charge. Wood Release. Cutting technique. Immediately jutsu after jutsu were sent out, and the 3 at the center came under siege. Sasori immediately launched Earth Release jutsu to block some of their jutsu. The roar of the jutsu and the explosion instantly sounded, and Sasori's mud wall shattered under the combined effect of their jutsu. Earth Release. Multiple Earth-style wall. Conan's voice sounded. Two barriers were quickly erected in front of the three, and then they were quickly broken by jutsu. Swish, swish, swish. The jutsu of the crowd fell on the three, and instantly the health bar on the heads of the three wildly fell. Especially the one who took the lead among these people. His intermediate cutting technique directly pulled out a large number of wooden spikes from the ground, which penetrated the three. Even scarier was the feature of the wood release jutsu. The wooden spikes that only showed up for 10 seconds would continue to cause damage to their health as long as they were still within the area of the wooden spikes. Fire release. Great fire annihilation. Fire release. Great fireball technique. Fire release. Fireball technique. Deidara, his health volume on the top of his head was rapidly falling, was annoyed. He threw out all three of his jutsu without care. Even his own shuriken was thrown out. Not to mention, under his fire, he was really able to take out one of the opponents. Watching one of the opponent's 4 units of health instantly disappear and turning into light and exiting the game, Deidara laughed. If you want to kill me, you have to pay the price. Go on. He can't pull out any more jutsu in these 10 seconds. The words made Deidara's smile stiff. Suddenly, he noticed that a large number of explosive tags had appeared behind the backs of those who were surrounding him at some point. Deidara hastily looked in another direction, and sure enough, a large number of explosive tags appeared in other places too. Now, it seemed that they were surrounded by explosive tags in all directions. What is this technique? Damn. So many explosive tags are held at the same time. Those shinobi who were attacking them also found something strange and looked at the explosive tags all over the sky with horror. Then, they looked at Conan. His expression hadn't changed from beginning to end. It's you. Damn it. On the other hand, seeing so many explosive tags, Sasori finally understood what Conan meant just now. And why she said that the two of them were here to die with her. So many explosive tags and so close to Sasori shook his head helplessly and directly gave up the struggle. He was given a total of 5 opportunities to evolve a jutsu, which was all added to Earth release, but not enough to protect them from this many explosive tags. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the exam space, the explosive tags had blocked the sky. At a certain moment, all over the sky explosive tags flew out from the box at the center, which were too many to count. There were still a large number of explosive tags being formed, flying out one after another. In the process of flying, some explosive tags would collide with each other, or meet shinobis blocking the flight path, which immediately triggered an explosion. And the explosion, again, triggered another explosion, instantly creating a chain of explosions. Boom boom. Boom boom boom. One roar after another. In the midst of angry curses, everyone who got caught up in it turned into light and disappeared together. In place, only a dozen boxes containing everyone's dropped items were left behind. In the shinobi world, the crowd of people seeing the split screens above their heads disappearing one after another, had a stunned expression on their faces. They didn't expect Conan's move to be so big. This attack was abnormal. A person killing more than a dozen examinees. Seeing those explosive tags all over the sky made their scalps go numb. The cages of the 3 major shinobi villages that had been eliminated saw this scene and slightly frowned. Especially the 4th Ryuji. As the soon-to-be commander of the allied shinobi forces, whether for his own reputation or otherwise, he could not afford to let the allied shinobi forces suffer too much loss in the coming raid. Now, knowing that Conan had such a powerful jutsu, he must take into account Conan's influence on the allied shinobi forces raid. After all, if Akatsuki's Conan rushed into the allied forces to launch this technique of summoning explosive tags, the explosive tags in the sky would be enough to inflict heavy losses on the allied forces. One man becomes an army, that's all there is to it. The current Akatsuki is too strong. Alas, the 4th Ryuji shook his head with heavy thoughts. He didn't know how to defend against millions of explosive tags. Thinking about the explosive power, the 4th Ryuji felt that even his own lightning release chakra armor couldn't protect him from the other party's indiscriminate bombardment. Moreover, what scared A the most was whether this technique would continue to work after the death of the jutsu user. It wasn't very difficult for him to kill the jutsu user in seconds, but if the user was killed and the jutsu still operated, then Conan was someone difficult to deal with. In the exam space, Sasuke narrowed his eyes and stared at the explosion in front of him, and the sound of explosions in his ear was endless. His eyes slowly turned to form a 6-pointed star pattern, which was what he gained when he picked up multiple Sharingan and upgraded it to a Mangekyo. He knew that he couldn't compare with other candidates in both combat experience and combat sense. So, he entered the exam space and quickly did a sweep search. He only searched for supplies, not fighting with anyone. Not to mention fighting, as long as he saw a human figure or traces of other examinees, he would avoid them far away. If you can beat it, fight. If you can't beat it, run. Where there is life, there is hope. This was taught by an extremely kind-looking teacher on the video, and Sasuke firmly took it to heart. He was going to pursue these 2 sentences to the end of this exam. So up to now, he had nothing but a pair of Mangekyo and a level 1 lightning release jutsu. He hadn't even evolved to having a second skill bar. In this survival exam, he set himself the goal of being near the top 5 and being rewarded by the exam space. There is a fierce battle ahead. The Mangekyo in his eyes slowly rotated. Sasuke opened the map and looked at his location. Now, he was still a long way from the next safe zone, and there was less than 3 minutes before the next time the safe zone shrunk. Time is running out. I can only try calculating the time. Sasuke's expression was slightly ugly. If he bypassed the explosion area ahead, he certainly wouldn't be able to reach the safe zone before the poisonous fog engulfed him. He only had 3 health units, and he couldn't survive in a 3rd level poisonous fog. He could only fight. Sasuke's eyes were fixed. He set off and ran towards the place where the explosion gradually disappeared. 2 minutes later, Uchiha Sasuke appeared in the explosion area. First, he carefully hid, lying on the ground, so that shrubs completely covered his body, and then he leaned over and looked around. When he saw everything in the area, he was instantly shocked. He automatically ignored those blasted blackened rocks and destroyed the environment. Sasuke's vision was filled with those boxes that somewhat glowed. Dropped items. Someone's dropped items. Or dropped items that haven't been picked up. The moment he recognized the dropped boxes, Sasuke's small face was immediately covered with shock. His eyes were instantly filled with joy. He excitedly gulped and desperately ran to the nearest box. At this point, he couldn't care less if this was someone else's trap. The cautious steps turned into strides, and the excited Uchiha Sasuke stumbled on his feet and flung himself directly to the ground. Without wiping the dust off his face, Uchiha Sasuke rolled and crawled to the box in front of him. Congratulations, you have found Conan's box. You have gained Mangekyo X5, Skill Upgrade Cards X3, Explosive Tags X2, and Kunai X1. Congratulations, you have found Dodara's box. You have gained Jogen X1, and Skill Upgrade Cards X3. Congratulations, you have found Sasori's box. You have gained Mangekyo X1 Thump. 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 His heart thumped faster and stronger. Looking at the constantly appearing prompts, Sasuke felt as if his heart was going to jump out of his chest. He turned and looked at a dozen other boxes. Gah. Sasuke's eyes quickly became bloodshot after his undeveloped Adam's apple gulped. The excitement was more than enough to get his adrenaline pumping. Made it. Made it. I made it. Sasuke clenched his fist unwillingly, with tears in his eyes. He thought, in this exam, he was destined to end up in obscurity, like a street rat fleeing in haste. But he didn't expect. Sasuke, would rise today. Sasuke couldn't care less about anything else, and started darting to the treasure chest ahead. Arriving at the treasure chest, without looking at what he had gained, he took them into his own arms. After ransacking all the boxes, Uchiha Sasuke didn't look back and ran away. A few minutes later, running into the safe zone and finding the corner of an abandoned building, Sasuke thought nothing of it and dove in. Whoosh. Whoosh. Hiding in a safe place, Sasuke sat on the ground, panting violently. His face and body were full of dirt, but his eyes were extremely bright. It's like a dream. It's really like a dream. Uchiha Sasuke couldn't have imagined that he would pick up such a big score. Thump. Thump thump. The heart was beating violently, and the effect of the wild adrenaline rush hadn't receded yet. Uchiha Sasuke licked his lips with excitement. Ptui ptui. After accidentally eating a mouthful of dirt before, Sasuke quickly spat out what was in his mouth. Then he looked with anticipation at the items in his arms that glowed with various colors. Hahaha. Seeing Uchiha Sasuke's immature expression, Uchiha Fugaku's cheerful laughter rang out. Hearing his laughter, Uchiha Mikoto and Izumi also smiled slightly, which immediately diluted the sadness in both of them. In the end, he is still too young. Mikoto took a reproachful look at Uchiha Fugaku, and faintly smiled. In the past few days, they had been paying close attention to Sasuke. Every day, the little man had a sullen expression on his face and wouldn't make friends with others. Watching him, Uchiha Mikoto would feel heartache. Maybe this is the first time he has acted like a child. Uchiha Fugaku didn't say anything, and his eyes never left Sasuke. He's going to merge the eternal Mangekyo. Seeing Sasuke holding a pair of Mangekyo and setting them into his eyes, Uchiha Fugaku looked impressed. Sharingan's advanced evolution, and Uchiha Fugaku thought the same thing as Terumi, that the advanced Sharingan should be able to summon Susanoo. As for Sharingan skills, judging from the current exam space's Mangekyo skills, Uchiha Fugaku believed that even if Sasuke upgraded to Eternal Mangekyo, his two eyes wouldn't have any extra abilities. This brat is Uchiha Sasuke, right? Ha. What luck. In the shinobi world, a group of people looked at Uchiha Sasuke, who fused the Sharingans, with eyes full of envy. Especially the owners of those boxes. At this moment, they who had been eliminated saw their loot being picked up by this guy Uchiha Sasuke, and their hearts were indescribably outraged. But then again, there was nothing they could do about it. They could only look at their screens and rage in anger. Haha. Well now, he jumped from the last position to the most powerful existence. And that Uzumaki Naruto still hasn't killed a single person yet. Hahaha, did you guys forget about that person who's trying to fight the poison fog, and only has military rations pills? Yeah, and her, hahaha. Crap. Hiss. This can't be shit. This can't be. This is absolutely impossible. How could Sharingan evolve into those eyes? This doesn't mean that the Uchiha clan is a descendant of Sage of Six Paths. The crowd, who were still laughing, suddenly erupted with the sounds of extreme shock. There was even the sound of people drawing in cold breaths. As if there is something beyond the understanding of the crowd. The change in this part of the world immediately aroused the interest of those remaining. They followed the gaze of these people, looking upward, to see everything. Everyone immediately froze. Ha! Everyone felt as if their brains had been hammered. There was buzzing in their heads as they all looked at Uchiha Sasuke, dumbfounded. To be exact, they were looking at Uchiha Sasuke's eyes in shock. The airy circle within circles, it's the Rinnegan, this Uchiha Fugaku, who had been watching Uchiha Sasuke, immediately changed his expression. He was shocked to see the Rinnegan in Uchiha Sasuke's eyes, as if all the blood in his body instantly froze. He could only collect some of his thoughts after a while. This. How is this possible? The next evolution of the Mangekyo of the Uchiha clan turned out to be the Rinnegan. What about Eternal Mangekyo? Using the eye technique, even the Eternal Mangekyo that can master the full-bodied Susanoo is surprisingly absent in the exam space. Could it be did the exam space deliberately put it as the next level Mangekyo? Does this mean that the Eternal Mangekyo was the wrong evolution direction of the Sharingan? Is it an aberration? Uchiha Fugaku suddenly felt his scalp go numb. If, for example, the end of the evolution of the Uchiha clan's Sharingan is the Rinnegan, then could the Sage of Six Paths be the ancestor of the Uchiha clan? At this thought, Uchiha Fugaku's breathing became ragged, and then his brow quickly furrowed again. He thought it wouldn't be that simple. Even if Sage of Six Paths owned a pair of Rinnegan, it didn't mean that all those who owned Rinnegan were descendants of Uchiha. For example, Uzumaki Nagato, who also had a pair of Rinnegan, was not an Uchiha. Wait. Uchiha Fugaku was surprised again. He thought of some information that was revealed during the first exam. Nagato was deceived by Obito, and Obito was deceived by Black Zetsu. That Uzumaki Nagato's eyes, is it possible that it's not his own? That's possible. Uchiha Fugaku's face sank when he thought of a certain possibility. No way. When Uzumaki, he even wanted to look at the guy's eyes again with his own eye technique. If the eyes on Uzumaki Nagato were really someone else's, as he thought, then only one person had such boldness and skills. Uchiha Madara. Thinking of Uchiha Madara, Uchiha Fugaku flushed even deeper, already turning somewhat crimson-purple. If Uzumaki Nagato's eyes were really Madara's, that Mangekyo evolution into Rinnegan is by no means as simple as finding a few Mangekyo to merge. Thinking about himself, his own eye technique had reached its limit only by combining it with Itachi's pair of eyes. If a pair of Mangekyo were added, his eyes would definitely be ruined because they couldn't withstand the extra power. Missing, there must be something missing. Uchiha Fugaku's brows had clustered into a frown, and suddenly, his face sank. Izumi, you should immediately rush back to the island and stabilize the rest of the clan. Yes. Patriarch. Upon hearing the order from Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Izumi had no objection. She instantly prepared to leave. She knew that the Patriarch was afraid that the people on the island would do something stupid after learning the news. Whoosh. Uchiha Izumi instantly disappeared. If anyone else saw this scene, they would have been shocked at her instantaneous speed. In Imegakure Square, Konan, Tadara, and Sasori were shocked to watch the intermediate Sharingan evolve into the advanced Sharingan, Rinnegan. By Akusama, isn't the leader Uzumaki Nagato supposed to be of the Uzumaki clan? Why would he have the Rinnegan? Is the leader's mother from the Uchiha clan? Tadara looked a little awkward, and he didn't like the people from Uchiha. If he found any in the exam space before, his choice of eyes was the Hyuga clan's Byakugan. Hearing Tadara's inquiry, Konan suddenly froze. Her eyes blinked and looked at Tadara. She really didn't understand how this guy's brain grew. Why is his IQ so high? However, in this case, the area where Nagato lived as a child should be in Konohagakure or Yuzashigakure. Why did I meet him in Imegakure? Konan thought about it for a while and was a little confused. Before she could think more, she saw Tadara rubbing his hands against each other with an extremely embarrassing look. He felt awkward, and even his face was a little red. Conan's heart stirred, and she instantly knew what Deidara was going to say. Both hands quietly formed a seal, leaving a paper clone in place and her real body directly left. Ahem, that Byaku-sama. Deidara rubbed his hands together in embarrassment, knowing that the most taboo thing in the shinobi world was to ask people about their jutsu. After all, jutsu was the bottom line of every shinobi and involved the shinobi's life. But at the thought of the technique called tandem explosive tags, Deidara's heart suddenly fluttered. That's real art. Successive explosions, all over the sky, even more spectacular than the hundreds of billions of explosive tags that bloomed before Byaku-sama's death. Anything for art. Deidara lowered his neck and was ready to be slashed by Conan. Byaku-sama, I want to exchange jutsu for tandem explosive tags. After waiting for a while, he found that Conan didn't reply. Deidara looked up. He saw Conan standing motionless in front of him. There was no response at all. No need to look. The real one already left. Sasori's unemotional voice stunned Deidara. Deidara reached out and gently pushed the Conan in front of him. Conan broke into pieces of floating paper. Looking at the flying pieces of paper, Deidara's face suddenly looked dejected. Congratulations, your intermediate Sharingan, Mangekyo, has been upgraded to advanced Sharingan, Rinnegan. Rinnegan has the power of reincarnation. Basic ability. Use of black receivers, absorbing and increasing chakra to a certain extent. It is detected that you are an examinee for the survival exam. You have gained full body Susanoo. Sasuke gawked at the prompt in front of him. He knew that the leader of Akatsuki had the Rinnegan. Now I have such eyes myself. Full body Susanoo. What is that? Sasuke's gaze moved slightly. In the next moment, a huge layer of chakra construct appeared on the periphery of his body. First, the bones, then flesh and blood made of chakra, and then the body. Uchiha Sasuke instantly rose from the ground and reached a height of tens of meters. He stood tall, overlooking his blue giant as a whole. Uchiha Sasuke discovered that he was wearing heroic blue armor outside of Susanoo's body. The blue Susanoo was very large in size, holding a blue sword in his left hand, and a pair of huge wings folded behind his back. This is the power of the eyes. Feeling his own strength, Uchiha Sasuke was shocked. Too powerful. He felt that his current self could kill everyone with one blow. Unfortunately, this was only temporary in the exam space, not his real strength. If he had such great power in reality, he would first find that man and kill him. He didn't care whether the other party had any difficulties or whether he was provoked. Those who kill should always be killed. Blood debt should be paid with blood. The person in front couldn't be spared, and the people behind the schemes must also be revealed. In the video he saw in Omegaker, the teacher's advice seemed to be ringing in his ear all the time. Sasuke looked at the dozens of skill upgrade cards in his hand. He only had a level 1 lightning release jutsu, and couldn't use that many skill upgrade cards. Swing, swish, swish, swish. A dozen skill upgrades flashed by, and Uchiha Sasuke's level 1 lightning release had risen to full level. Lightning release. Thunder armor, level 15, full level. Summon the powerful thunder and lightning chakra, surround oneself, and let the user enter a thunder god-like state. Thunder god. Surrounded by thunder and lightning, raise your hand to release lightning attacks. When attacked by water release jutsu, the water release wielder will be attacked by the surging lightning, dealing 2 units of damage. Thunder god. Duration 5 minutes, cooldown 1 hour. Hahaha. Uchiha Sasuke burst into laughter when he saw his strength had become so terrifying. His full-bodied Susanoo was considered passive, and no one could break through such protection except jutsu, which was upgraded over a dozen levels. Coupled with the Thunder God status, Sasuke felt that he was sure to become the first in this exam. Putting away the remaining dozen skill cards and 10 pairs of Jogan, Uchiha Sasuke controlled Susanoo and headed straight for the final stage. Boom. Boom. Each step taken by the tall Susanoo was a distance of several dozen meters, and with each step, the ground seemed to shake like an earthquake. Sasuke navigated the full-bodied Susanoo, rampaging along, not even looking at the other examinees, and even ignoring the other examinees' attacks on him. Hahaha. Looking at the other examinees who ran away from him, Sasuke's maniacal laughter inside of Susanoo didn't stop for even a moment. It's awesome. So cool. A few minutes ago, he was like a rat crossing the street. In order to survive, he had to run away when he saw anyone. His heart was truly stifled. Now, it's the other way around. Now, everyone has to run away when they see me. Run away. Run back, like a beaten dog. Hahaha. Sasuke licked his lips with excitement. When he saw the hut in front of him, he stepped on it with 1 foot. When he saw the pond in front of him, he stepped on it with 1 foot. When he saw an examinee in front of him, he stepped on him with 1 foot. What did he need to dodge? Just run straight into them and be done with it. The urn house collapsed, the pond of stored water instantly broke the dam, and as for the examinee who tried to attack, he already ran away. Sasuke smacked his lips and looked at the fleeing examinee with some regret. His Susanoo only had one sword with a limited attack range and no long-range attacks. His only ranged attack was Thunder God, but with an hour-long cooldown, he certainly couldn't use it right now. So, he really had no choice but to watch the other party escape. A few minutes later, Uchiha Sasuke had reached the center of the fourth safe zone. He controlled the Susanoo and stood still, then looked down on everything from above, and for a moment, his heart was full of pride. Uchiha Itachi. I'll be right here waiting for you. Sasuke's eyes flashed with crazy killing intent. He believed that that man wouldn't be killed so easily, and he would definitely come to the final round. Full-bodied Susanoo. Zetsu's body slowly emerged from the ground, looking at the overwhelming aura while standing in front of Susanoo, feeling a bit of a headache coming on. Right now, most people's attacks shouldn't be able to break through the full-bodied Susanoo's defense. After all, if one wanted to break through Susanoo, Zetsu believed that one had to upgrade their attack jutsu to at least a level 10. He did upgrade his jutsu to a level 10, but not the attack jutsu. Earth Release. Hiding in Rock Technique, level 11. Being wielded, the user will gain the ability to walk underground, duration 10 minutes, cooldown 1 minute. Let them fight. I wonder what the second prize will be. His voice sounded quiet, and in the next moment, Zetsu's body sank back to the ground. The URP, the next circle is the final circle. Tsunade burped and looked at the map expectantly. Right now, only one corner of the valley where she was located hadn't been covered by poisonous fog, and Tsunade was curled up here at the moment. Beside her was a hell-like heap of military ration pills. In order to improve her adaptability, she had eaten dozens of military ration pills. She was already somewhat full. But there was no doubt that her effort was worth it. Adaptation. You have completely adapted to the poisonous fog, and your health loss from the poisonous fog is reduced by 65%. Looking at the prompt, Tsunade nodded in satisfaction. Then she looked at the small military ration pill held beside her, and her face suddenly turned bitter. This thing, it tastes terrible. Damn it. For the reward. Tsunade took a deep breath and looked as if she had sacrificed her life for justice. As long as I eat fast enough, the poisonous fog won't kill me. Having said that, Senju Tsunade herself knew that there was a limit to how long she could last. Now, she just hoped that the person who entered the final round wasn't Danzo. That guy had to disappear before the finals. It better be some ruthless guy who went up and slashed everyone else down, and just slashed everyone to death. In this way, she could still get second place. After all, even if these were military ration pills, eating too much would still kill people. Naruto, you should remember that once you confirm that the other party is your enemy, you can't be soft-hearted. Compassion for the enemy is cruelty to oneself. In the face of an enemy, as long as you could defeat the other party, taking any kind of measures is the right thing to do. Near the final round, Uzumaki Nagato spoke at length to Uzumaki Naruto. He and Uzumaki Naruto had met shortly after the exam, so, all this time, Uzumaki Nagato had been giving Uzumaki Naruto a bit of a private lecture. With Uzumaki Nagato around, most examinees were afraid to find trouble with them for fear that Uzumaki Nagato would bring Akatsuki, the group of crazy people, to settle accounts after the exam. So, the pair made their way over. Because of Uzumaki Nagato, Naruto hadn't even gotten the most basic pair of eyes until now, let alone killing someone. His lone skill bar was only filled with a level 1 wood release jutsu. Yes, and Aizen. After listening to Nagato, Uzumaki Naruto nodded his head seriously. Following Uzumaki Nagato's journey, Naruto felt that he had gained a lot. Even if he left the exam space right now, not getting any reward from the exam space, he thought he had already earned something. Study hard, Naruto. You're very talented. You're only tentatively mastering the essentials of the modern spirit right now, and when you have fully mastered it, I'll permit you to return to Konoha as Hokage. When you have all passed my tests, you'll go back to being a Hokage for your village, Gaara will go back to being a Kazekage, and Tadara will go to being the Tsuchikage really. Nagato and Aizen. Before Uzumaki Nagato could finish his sentence, he was interrupted by an excited Naruto. Call me Aniki. Nagato's face turned slightly back. Seeing this scene, Naruto immediately looked positive. Aniki. Good, I asked you to call me Aniki, not because of Jiraiya, but because you and I are both successors to the modern spirit. Yes, Aniki. Hearing the other man's words warmed Naruto's heart. Had he ever been treated so sincerely? If it weren't for his life's dream of becoming a Hokage, he would even want to stay in Imegakure. Because here, no one taunted him, and no one bullied him. At most, Sasuke irritated him by calling him a loser. Naruto suddenly became angry at the thought of Sasuke. He swore that if Sasuke, that bastard, appeared in front of him now, he would definitely beat him and take revenge for Hinata and himself. It was okay for him to be mean to himself, but how dare he be mean to Hinata? Clearly, he and Hinata wanted to help him with extra lessons, but he said they were meddling. That damned guy. By the way, Naruto, when you become Hokage, what are you going to do? I will fill everyone's stomach. Jutsu is not just for war, but for people's livelihood, and to improve social productivity. I'll use Earth Release to open up the hills, build roads, and use Wood Release to afforestate plants. Irrigation by Water Release, and by the way, Lightning Release can prevent insect infestation and pests. Haha. Uzumaki Nagato burst out laughing when he heard Naruto's childish ideas. He looked at Uzumaki Naruto with satisfaction and asked, what about Fire Release? Uzumaki Naruto froze for a moment. Those were the answers he had come up with, spending his time trying to think. But he really hadn't thought about Fire Release. Now when he heard Nagato and Ikki ask about it, his eyes rolled around twice. Fire Release then let Sasuke make fire for me to cook. Who? How dare you belittle me? A deafening voice suddenly sounded above their heads. Uzumaki Nagato was just about to retreat with Naruto when he saw a huge blue shadow roaring from the sky in the next moment. Its wings unfolded, and its back shook as its huge body shifted instantly from a state of rapid descent to one of suspension. This extreme shift between the two, movement and stillness, instantly caused Uzumaki Nagato's eyes to narrow. Boom. Sasuke Susanoo directly landed on the ground, rolling up a gust of wind with a loud noise. Look who it is, it's you, the loser. Sasuke's dismissive voice spoke up, his eyes resting on Uzumaki Nagato for half a second, then ignoring him as if he hadn't seen him. Out of respect for teachers, he couldn't disrespect this guy. Also, he couldn't beat him. Otherwise, he could beat himself to death if he went out. Sasuke simply ignored him. Who did you say was a loser? Uzumaki Naruto snorted, rested one hand on his hip, and pointed at Uchiha Sasuke, showing pride. Ha, you're the loser. Sasuke said with a wildly dazzling cocky frown, his brow brimming with pride. He once defeated him in Konoha's shinobi school. The other day, he was overtaken by him, and now this familiar feeling was back. Great. The corners of Sasuke's lips were slightly raised as if he had already seen Naruto on his knees begging for mercy. Whoosh. Susanoo's sword was instantly drawn out and pointed at Uzumaki Naruto. Did you know that, killing you now is easy as pie for me? With that, the tip of the sword lightly swayed, generating a bright sword aura, almost blinding Uzumaki Naruto. Oh, you're strong now, I'm weak now, so what's the point of killing me? Uchiha Sasuke froze for a moment as if he hadn't expected Naruto to be so brave. Uchiha Sasuke was instantly furious at being called a loser. Then he forced down the anger in his heart. With a slight movement of his eyes, he had come up with a way to get under Uzumaki Naruto's skin. Ha, Uzumaki Naruto, I really won't accomplish much by killing you right now. Snap. From his pocket, he pulled out the 10 Jogan he hadn't used and then, together with a dozen or so skill upgrade cards he hadn't used, threw them at Uzumaki Naruto. Here are 10 Jogan. You should fuse the advanced Byakugan first, and then upgrade your skills with the upgrade card. When we both have 3 units of health, I'll kill you. I'll see what you have to say at that time. Okay. Without saying another word, Uzumaki Naruto picked up what Sasuke had thrown on the ground in front of him. 1 pair, 2 pairs, and 3 pairs with a single stroke. The 9 pairs of Jogan merged into his eyes, and Uzumaki Naruto's eyes instantly turned pale blue. Congratulations, you have gained the advanced Byakugan, Tensugan. Tensugan can be converted into Tensugan Chakra mode, and can use the abilities such as Truth Seeker Orb, Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion, and Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. It is detected that you are an examinee for the survival exam. The number of Truth Seeker Orb used by Tensugan will be limited. 3x, use of Tensugan Chakra mode for 3 minutes, and use of Tensugan ability. Silver and Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion 1x. Naruto blinked. He didn't think carefully about what it meant by so many abilities being limited, and simply grabbed his skill upgrade card to upgrade his Wood Release. A dozen flashes of light passed by, and Naruto looked up bitterly. Hey Sasuke, do you have any more upgrade cards? My level 15 Wood Release isn't even full yet. Uchiha Sasuke was waiting for the next battle. He didn't expect that level 15 Wood Release wasn't its full level yet, and even more unexpectedly, Naruto dared to say it out loud. How thick-headed is he? Uchiha Sasuke sneered. Fortunately, the next battle wasn't a competition on how thick one could get, otherwise, he would have given up. No. Sasuke spoke in a deep voice. Then, Susanoo's sword was pointed at Naruto again. My lightning release is also at level 15. Hurry up and fight with me. I can't. Uzumaki Naruto's head shook like a rattle. I'm not going to fight you when your skills are at full level, and mine aren't. This Uchiha Sasuke fool. He could fall for such a simple provocation. Did their Uchiha clan get exterminated, but he was left alive because he had a low IQ. In the Shinobi world, people watching Uzumaki Naruto and Sasuke's antics were thoroughly confused. Especially Sasuke's actions, they didn't know how to explain it. When they saw him fight Danzo before, he was cold, ruthless, powerful, and intelligent. How come he looked like a fool now? On the other hand, this Uzumaki Naruto changed a lot in just a few days. That's right, that's right. He was the one shouting against his own village during the makeup exam. Now, he could even con this Uchiha Sasuke boy. He's growing up really fast. But having said that, the advanced Byakugan he evolved doesn't seem very strong. Also, there are so many limitations. It seems that Uchiha Sasuke is giving all his IQ to luck. He's so lucky to have awakened the Rinnegan. At that time, half of the Blue Giants already left Shimura Danzo helpless. Now, the Blue Giant has armor and a sword. I think Uzumaki Naruto wouldn't be able to break his defenses. Indeed, these Tenseigan eyes don't look too strong. At the same time, the Hyuga clan and Konoha were also analyzing the Tenseigan. Looking at Tenseigan's profile, it seemed pretty much the same as the Rinnegan, both unpretentious. Truth-Seeker Orb, Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion, and Silver Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. The names were quite flashy. Patriarch, since the Sai named Tenseigan, could be at the same advanced level as Rinnegan, I think it could very well be as powerful as the Rinnegan. The elder of the Hyuga clan looked solemn as he felt that the Tenseigan eyes had to be taken seriously. Because the leader of Akatsuki, Nagato, had a pair of Rinnegan. Coupled with the power of Nagato's strength, everyone was shocked when Sasuke was able to evolve his eyes to a pair of Rinnegan. And at the moment, the Tenseigan hadn't caused much of a ripple, because no one had seen what it could do or knew of its description. After all, compared with Susanu's complete body and the Rinnegan, this Tenseigan didn't have any credentials at all. Tenseigan Chakra Mode. In Konoha, Jiraiya, who was eliminated, furrowed his brow. Originally, Nagato's indoctrination of Naruto had already annoyed him enough. He already had a feeling that his student, Naruto, was snatched away from him. Now there was the Tenseigan Chakra Mode. He didn't quite know what this Tenseigan Chakra Mode was, but he knew that there was another name for the Senjutsu from Mount Mamboku. Six-Path Sage Mode. Jiraiya didn't know if they were the same. If they are the same, then that Tenseigan was terrifying. Naruto, I killed a few people on the way here. I have a few skill upgrade cards on me. Uzumaki Nagato's voice rang out, causing Uzumaki Naruto to freeze, then snap to attention. Nagato and Ikki, didn't you use them? Well, you can kill me. It's okay. Uzumaki Nagato's voice didn't waver in the slightest, as if he were talking about a very mundane matter. No, I can't do that. I certainly can't do that. Uzumaki Naruto shook his head vehemently, stopping Uzumaki Nagato from saying anything further. He provoked Sasuke because he was aware of Sasuke's arrogant personality, and he simply hoped that Sasuke would disperse the giant creature and fight with him himself. Who would have thought Sasuke would be so out of the ordinary? Nagato and Ikki, I'd better just go and fight him. The level 15 would release. Deep Forest Emergence feels very strong to me as well. Uzumaki Naruto was just about to move, but Uzumaki Nagato pulled him back with one hand. Naruto, if you don't kill me, I'll give up willingly. Hearing Uzumaki Nagato's words, Uzumaki Naruto's pale blue eyes directly met Nagato's as he spoke with a determined expression. Even if Nagato and Ikki gave up, I wouldn't make a move against Nagato and Ikki. See Naruto's persistence, Nagato chuckled and said, well then, I'll give up myself, and you'll be responsible for defeating him. With that, Nagato was about to forfeit this match. He couldn't wait for it. Looking for opportunities to give up the exam and let Naruto strengthen his faith was something that Nagato had decided after meeting Naruto in the exam space. After all, in his view, it was undoubtedly a dead game to trade one exam space reward for Naruto's complete devotion to the great cause. Especially after Uzumaki Naruto showed his extraordinary talent in modernization, no matter the last exam or the chat just now. Originally, Nagato felt that he should have died long ago. However, after meeting Naruto, no one came to kill him. How could he give up so easily, now that he had a chance? Nagato and Ikki, don't you want the reward from the exam space? Uzumaki Naruto pointed to the semi-virtual screen in front of him. There are only 6 people left now. I'll get my reward soon. Looking at the anxious Naruto, Uzumaki Nagato's face showed a sudden look of sentimentality. Naruto, listen to me. Right now, you need an upgrade card. If it were Sasuke, Hinata, or the others, I'd do the same. A great cause can be accomplished by me alone. It requires countless me's to move forward. Like this path now, I have come to the end of it. The next battle is yours. Uzumaki Nagato put out his hands, adjusted the robe on Naruto, and then rubbed Naruto's golden hair, completely messing it up. Don't worry about my reward. Because I, for one, have staked my reward on the future. Uzumaki Nagato finished speaking, and his body instantly disappeared, leaving in its place a box that had his loot in it, shining with a dazzling light. Boom. Boom. Uzumaki Naruto's mind felt as if it had been trampled by a giant beast. Whoosh. At this moment, it was as if a crimson light had appeared in Naruto's world. This light, which instantly tore through the sky, illuminated his entire world. Uzumaki Naruto looked incredulously at the spot where Uzumaki Nagato had disappeared, and the scenes with Uzumaki Nagato appeared in his mind. At one time, Naruto thought he was a bad guy when he invaded Konoha. But with constant contact, he found that his Nagato Aniki was just a person who wanted to bring real peace to the shinobi world. He wasn't recognized by anyone, but he was still working hard for the peace of the shinobi world. He's a great man. He brought me to Omegakure and taught me regardless of my past. Even more, he brought my mom back to life, so that I could meet my mom. He's a warm person. Now, he directly gave up the reward from the exam space, and chose to sacrifice himself to help me. This is kindness. This is recognition. Uzumaki Naruto, at this moment, almost wanted to cry out to the sky. In all these years, had he ever been given such trust? Naruto stared at the box left by Nagato. In the next moment, the look on his face had turned extremely determined. He felt that, right now, he wouldn't bat an eyelid if Nagato Aniki asked him to die for him, as long as he didn't do anything to Konoha. Nagato Aniki, I won't let you down. Uzumaki Naruto held out his fist to the sky and gave a powerful gesture. He knew that everything could be seen by Nagato Aniki, his own mother, Hinata, and even the shinobi world. I will be the greatest Hokage of all time. I will spread the modern spirit to every corner of the shinobi world. After all, that's my ninja way. Uzumaki Naruto finished with bravado and turned to look at Sasuke, who was completely frozen in midair. His childish but firm voice rang out. I'll beat you. After saying that, Naruto directly picked up the skill upgrade card from Nagato's loot drop. He swiped with a swish. Congratulations. Upgrade Wood Release. Wood Dragon Technique, level 18. Able to summon a giant wooden dragon. Congratulations. Upgrade Wood Release. Wood Golem Technique, level 20, level full. Wood Release. Wood Golem Technique, level 20. Able to create a large wooden golem, control the golem and its wooden dragon to fight. Duration 5 minutes, cooldown 1 hour. Wood Golem Technique. After watching the skill analysis, Naruto was thrilled. This was the jutsu he needed. With a loud roar, his body instantly swelled. No, it wasn't his body. It was the ground. The ground under his feet was rapidly rising. Huge logs appeared around his body, constantly being built and organized, quickly forming a huge wooden golem. The wooden giant's proportions were exactly the same as Uzumaki Naruto's, and even its face, with its hair made of trees, bore a slight resemblance to Uzumaki Naruto. On its right arm, there was a huge wooden dragon wrapped around it. Saying that it was a wood dragon, Uzumaki Naruto couldn't help but think that its head looked a little like his own fox. Uzumaki Naruto stood atop the wooden giant's head. His akatsuki red cloud robe billowed with the wind as his body continued to rise. Directly over Uchiha Sasuke. Looking at the immediate changes, Sasuke was stunned. He was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect Uzumaki Naruto could have smoothed out the gulf-like gap between them right under his nose. Fortunately, I still have Thunder God. Sasuke was relieved to realize that Uzumaki Naruto was no match for him. With a gleam in his eye, Sasuke drew his Susanu's sword and charged straight at the wooden man Uzumaki Naruto had summoned. In the blink of an eye, the two giants fought in the finals. Boom. Boom. Hearing the roar of the battle ahead, Hyuga Nichi looked a little grim. The Jogan was fully open, and the battle ahead of him was instantly captured in his eyes. Looking at the horrific battle, Hyuga Nichi didn't understand it. Why were these two guys with 3 health units on their heads so powerful? Hyuga Nichi shook his head and sighed. There were now 5 people left, and in addition to the 2 guys fighting, 2 others were hiding in this final area. With this in mind, Hyuga Nichi looked carefully at other places in the final area. To his surprise, he didn't find traces of anyone. Suddenly, there was a flash of dazzling light. Hyuga Nichi was unable to react. In the next moment, his body had already appeared in the Hyuga clan's land. Congratulations. You have achieved the 5th best score in the survival exam. Reward. Healing Card X1. Healing Card. Use is limited to Hyuga Nichi. When used, it would instantly heal any injuries. I was eliminated. Only now, holding the healing card in his hand, did Hyuga Nichi realize that he had just been killed in seconds, while having 5 units of health. But, his Jogan didn't see anyone. Hyuga Nichi didn't look at his reward, directly looking at the screen above. At the moment, in Omegakure, Uzumaki Nagato was looking at an enthusiastic Uzumaki Kushina with a slight headache. Just now, when he returned to Omegakure, Uzumaki Kushina told him a silly sentence. Nagato-kun, do you want a wife? If you want one, I'll get one for you. Uzumaki Kushina looked at Nagato with a big smile. She learned from Orochimaru that Nagato had studied under Jiraiya. That was to say, he was Minato's Kouhai. Well, the future had changed, and it was yet to be seen if Naruto would be Jiraiya's student. It's perfectly fine for Kushina to address Nagato as a junior from Minato's perspective. Uzumaki Kushina knew that her son had suffered a lot in Konoha, and it was Uzumaki Nagato who brought him out of Konoha. Therefore, she said nothing about the strange knowledge he had been teaching Naruto. She was also a shinobi, and she knew that when the other party brought Naruto out, it was surely to use him. He was teaching Naruto things to make better use of Naruto. But even if she knew, she couldn't help it. She was dead and couldn't give Naruto a powerful refuge. All she could do was to give Uzumaki Naruto and Uzumaki Karen all the sealing techniques she knew as much as possible, thus increasing Naruto's role. After all, being needed or being more useful might make Naruto's life better, right? What's more, Naruto himself seemed to like those strange things. But, until just now, Kushina was completely stunned by Uzumaki Nagato's display. She couldn't imagine, she couldn't understand, why Uzumaki Nagato would go to such lengths for her own son. Suicide in a survival exam. He even gave up the rewards that were within reach. If he killed Naruto, he would get the rewards. If she hadn't known that Naruto was her son, she would have thought that Uzumaki Nagato was Naruto's real father. At this moment, Uzumaki Kushina finally understood the magnitude of what Uzumaki Nagato was trying to achieve. He wasn't trying to use Naruto at all. He was trying to get Naruto to approve of him, to trust him fully. That's terrifying. This man's scheming was truly horrifying. A conspiracy. This is a naked conspiracy. With the favor from him, both she and Naruto had to be grateful to him. Kushina put herself in Naruto's shoes. Not to mention Naruto's, if she encountered that kind of treatment at Naruto's age TSK. That was how I got myself entangled with that idiot Namikaze Minato back in the day. Uzumaki Nagato was still frozen. In the next moment, Kushina's voice rang out again. As you know, I have a student called Uzumaki Karen, who, like us, belongs to the Uzumaki clan. Originally, I thought she was the wife Naruto had found for himself, but then I realized that the little Hyuga girl was the one. Although I'm not a fan of the Hyuga clan, Naruto's choice is the one I will definitely support. So, Nagato, what do you think of Uzumaki Karen? Uzumaki Kushina frowned slightly, then quickly added. We are all Uzumaki clansmen, so it's your duty to pass on the Uzumaki bloodline. I'm Uzumaki Karen's teacher. If I am the matchmaker, she will definitely agree. But there's a little age difference between you two. She's a teenager now, and in another 4 or 5 years, she will be able to get married. Anyway, you still have to wait another 4 to 5 years. Maybe you guys can get to know each other first in this time. Hearing Uzumaki Kushina's indecent words, Uzumaki Nagato instantly broke away from Kushina and disappeared in an instant. Want to run? Looking at the disappearing Uzumaki Nagato, Kushina smiled. How could her first matchmaking job end in failure? With her perception fully opened, she instantly sensed Uzumaki Nagato's chakra, and was about to move after him when Kushina suddenly stopped. Feeling two familiar chakras in her memory, Kushina looked suspiciously in another direction. Uchiha Fugaku and Mikoto. Uzumaki Kushina wasn't the only one who saw Uzumaki Nagato's intentions, but other people in the shinobi world too. At this moment, in Iwagakure, Inoki's expression was incomparably gloomy. He panicked, he completely panicked. Originally, he heard that Uzumaki Nagato wanted Tadara to come back as a Kage, and he was still a little happy. After all, this was exactly what he wanted. But now after seeing Uzumaki Nagato's temperament and methods, he wasn't happy at all. With the leadership and appeal shown by Uzumaki Nagato just now, when the time came for Tadara to return to Iwagakure as the Tsuchikage, would he still be the Tadara who was on Iwagakure's side? And even if Tadara could resist Uzumaki Nagato's charm, what about Kurisuchi? Damn it. This can't wait any longer. Inoki stood up abruptly, both fists clenched to death. We can't let Uzumaki Nagato brainwash Tadara and Kurisuchi any longer. We must save them both before it's too late. Kasuchi, are all the shinobi in the village ready? They're assembled, ready to go. Have everyone depart now and leave for the Land of Fire, gather the other shinobi villages, and launch a direct surprise attack on Omegakure. With that, Inoki directly moved and floated outward. On this mission, it's imperative to save Kurisuchi and Tadara. They're in a very dangerous situation. Not only Inoki, but also Chiyo of Sunagakure, Ei of Kamagakure, and Terumi Mei of Karigakure were all heading for the Land of Fire, with half of the elite of their respective villages. They would gather in the Land of Fire, followed by a direct and massive attack on Akatsuki in the Omegakure. It was said to be a sneak attack, but 5 shinobi villages gathered and brought out nearly 40,000 elite shinobi. How could it be a simple sneak attack? The wild grass must be uprooted. The goal of all the shinobi villages was to uproot the dreaded akatsuki, to wipe them out completely. Or, back when akatsuki demonstrated that they could easily destroy any shinobi village, it had already started. Boom, boom, boom. In the exam space, Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto were still fiercely engaged in battle. To say that it was fierce would only be in terms of the damage caused by 2 people. After all, these 2 had no combat experience at all. At the moment, these 2 were just like babies in mechs, each punching each other with brute force. As for Sasuke's Totsuka blade, it had fallen aside along with the wooden dragon on Naruto's wooden golem. Bang. Susanu's giant kick staggered the wooden figure. Uchiha Sasuke controlled Susanoo and flew up to look down at Uzumaki Naruto from midair. His teeth were biting his lips, with indescribable regret in his heart. At that time, he shouldn't have talked to him for a while, and directly hacked him to death with 3 slashes. But it's okay now, humph. Naruto, you're a loser. Do you think that's all I can do? Sasuke smiled coldly from above, and in the next moment, abruptly unleashed his own level 15 lightning release. Thunder Armor. Sasuke also shouted out the name of the skill to push himself further. Lightning Release. Thunder God. Boom. Whoosh as Sasuke's voice sounded. The sky above the final area instantly turned cloudy, and then a thunderbolt, as if summoned, came from all directions and flew to converge above Sasuke's head. The thunder overhead seemed to form an ocean of lightning, with countless thunderbolts rushing and hissing over it. At a certain moment, the accumulated thunder suddenly overturned, and the thunder all over the sky, like runaway wild horses, directly drenched Sasuke Susanoo. To everyone's surprise, the thunder pouring from the sky didn't melt Sasuke Susanoo, but seemed to put a thundercloak over it. Surrounded by thunder, the momentum instantly reached its peak. That wasn't all. With the excess thunder gathered in Sasuke's hand, a 12 meters long spear of lightning appeared in Susanoo's hand in the blink of an eye. From a distance, Susanoo, who was raging with thunder all over its body, holding a crazy hissing thunderbolt, looked as if he was a god that had descended to earth. A god of thunder. This is a lighting technique. Looking at the screen, Uchiha Sasuke looked like the thunder god, and everyone in the shinobi world was stunned. Is this really something that lightning release jutsu can achieve? Listening to the harsh thunder sounds coming from their screens, everyone felt their scalp tingling. The hairs on their bodies stood on end, and goosebumps had grown. Is this lightning release jutsu? At the moment, compared to the thunder god lightning release, they felt that their lightning release was like static electricity from a baby. That thing that they were used to using, they were embarrassed to call it lightning release. At this moment, some of these people had already made up their minds to never use lightning release again in the future. It's so humiliating. By the way, doesn't Kano yes, right, he once made a name for himself with this jutsu move, right? I remember that jutsu. I think it was called Lightning Blade. Lightning Blade. Hahaha, I wonder if he's seeing this thunder god, would he still have the courage to name his jutsu Lightning Blade? Inside the field, the shock of the shinobi watchers wasn't known to Uzumaki Naruto. At that moment, he was looking at Sasuke's thunder god. The other side was in the air, and his wooden golem didn't have any kind of attack that could reach the opponent. What's more, his wooden dragon was beheaded by Sasuke's Totsuka sword. Thunder God Spear. Above, Sasuke had already moved Susanoo, making a throwing gesture. At the next moment, Sasuke's thunder spear was directly used as a javelin and thrown at Uzumaki Naruto, who was on top of the wooden golem. Whoosh. The thunder spear hissed, tearing through the air between them, and instantly appeared in front of the wooden golem. Immediately afterward, the wooden golem was penetrated without any hindrance. At the next moment, lightning flashed, and thunder instantly raged. Lightning ran inside and outside the wooden golem, and it was as if a giant net of thunder and lightning had appeared on Earth. In an instant, the sky of the final area, and everyone's screens, turned dark. Not dark, but the lightning release was too bright, overpowering all the light on the battlefield. Naruto noticed that one of the health units on his head was emptied out, which meant that, although these thunder and lightning couldn't completely destroy the wooden golem, they could actually harm him. Naruto's gaze focused. He simply abandoned the wooden golem and leaped outward. If he stayed on the wooden golem, his remaining 2 health units would certainly be taken away by the raging thunder. At this time, he could only give up on the wooden golem. Uzumaki Naruto, who jumped off of the wooden golem, fell down rapidly, and his eyes stirred violently. With the blooming of blue light, Naruto's cry instantly sounded. Tensuken Chakra Mode. Whoosh. Uzumaki Naruto, who was falling downward, shook. In the next moment, his whole body directly floated upward. Now, Uzumaki Naruto's body, and even the clothes he was wearing, turned blue. His body, like pure power, revealed fluctuation of energy, clear to the naked eye. The energy seemed like it was burning, surprisingly pulsating and flickering. What's even more bizarre was that, above his head, there were also 3 equally colored spheres floating quietly. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Naruto raised one hand and let out a cry. 3 Truth Seeker Orb instantly combined and morphed. Then, a slender and dazzling golden sword appeared in Naruto's hand. The golden sword in Naruto's hand rapidly grew longer. In the blink of an eye, it had surpassed the distance between him and Uchiha Sasuke. Whoosh. Naruto gripped his sword and slashed in Uchiha Sasuke's direction. In addition to the swish of the sword slashing through the air, surprisingly, there was no other sound. The golden sword directly swept through Susanu's body. Slash. Whoosh. When the golden sword in Uzumaki Naruto's hand dissipated, Uchiha Sasuke was shocked to find that his full-bodied Susanoo was directly cut open. Uchiha Sasuke looked above his head in astonishment as he saw the mirror-like smooth cut, and watched the full-bodied Susanoo fall to the ground in 2 halves. That's when he realized that he had just lost once already. Damn it. Uchiha Sasuke's face suddenly changed, and his body fell towards the ground. He rolled and landed on the ground, then looked at Uzumaki Naruto, who flew towards him. Coming towards Uchiha Sasuke, in the next moment, Uzumaki Naruto dispersed his Tensugen chakra mode. With the force of his own fall from the sky, Uzumaki Naruto directly pinned Uchiha Sasuke down. Sasuke hadn't recovered from his shock state yet. Bang. 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 Left hand punch, right hand punch, Uzumaki Naruto hit him left and right. While beating him, he said, "This punch is for Hinata, this punch is for me. Are you convinced now? Are you convinced now?" Uchiha Sasuke was hit, and the pain in his face instantly made him react. Taking advantage of a lack of attention from Naruto, he rolled right over and pinned Uzumaki Naruto underneath him. Bang. 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 "Loser, are you convinced yet? Are you convinced now?" In the ground beneath them, Black Zetsu looked up at Naruto and Sasuke, who were wrestling with each other in confusion. Just now, what was it just now? The elder of the Hyuga clan swallowed 2 hard gulps of saliva. He didn't notice that his voice was shaking. Just now, Uzumaki Naruto used the Tensugen chakra mode and the Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion, which almost scared him to death. The sword could cut Uchiha Sasuke's full-bodied Susanoo into 2. Unexpectedly, he could also fly. This matter should be suppressed first. Hyuga Hiashi's voice also trembled a little, and even his hands were slightly trembling under his sleeves. Now, he was absolutely sure that the Tensugen was stronger than the Rinnegan. Hyuga Hiashi looked deeply at Uzumaki Naruto, who was wrestling with Sasuke. At that time, he also saw the prompt from the screen when Uzumaki Naruto combined the Tensugen. Originally, he wondered why there were so many restrictions now. It seemed that it was entirely because the Tensugen was too powerful. 6-Path Sage Mode. Another kind of 6-Path Sage Mode. Seeing Naruto's Tensugen mode just now, Jiraiya was going crazy. That method of energy draw, that natural energy property, was clearly the same as the Senjutsu chakra, but a completely different way of using the energy and chakra. Jiraiya was overwhelmed. Bang. Jiraiya's body suddenly disappeared into white smoke. Suddenly, he appeared on Mount Mamboku. Before he could figure out why he was being reverse summoned at this time, a toad's deep voice had sounded right at his feet. "Jiraiya, the future of the shinobi world has drastically changed. Great Lord Elder has a new prophecy. He's waiting for you. Go ahead. Great Toad Sage wants to see me." Jiraiya froze, and his expression turned solemn when he thought of the Great Toad Sage, who could prophesize and had lived for an unknown number of years. "As it happens, I also have a lot of questions for the Great Toad Sage." Ha 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 ha, here comes the poison, here comes the poison. They're both still fighting. It's the last level of Poisonous Fog, and they both have 2 health units left. I'm afraid they wouldn't even last 3 seconds. Ha ha ha. In the shinobi world, a group of people watched with great interest, waiting for Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke to get swallowed up by the Poisonous Fog. Right now, they didn't care about the jutsu that Sasuke and Naruto had just used. Anyway, no matter how powerful, it would be gone once they got out of the exam space. It was just a flash in the pan. After all, whether it was 9 Byakugan evolving into Jogan, or Jogan evolving into Tensugen, or Mangekyo evolving into Rinnegan, not to mention the success rate, just the quantity, the current shinobi world couldn't fulfill the conditions. Therefore, these terrible eye techniques were all the products of the exam space and would never appear in reality. They're not panicking at all. Therefore, they were more concerned about the 2 guys fighting each other right now, throwing punch after punch. Who would be the winner in the end? The poisonous fog continued to spread, directly engulfing the entire exam space. After 2 seconds, Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke turned into light and disappeared together. At the instant two people disappeared, a plant-like figure emerged from the ground. It was Zetsu. At that moment, Zetsu was looking around in disbelief. No one's here. Where is that person? His map clearly showed that only 2 people were left in the exam space, not counting the chosen one, my guy. But he was now in the final area, and there was no one else. Where are they? Zetsu incredulously looked everywhere. He felt that something was wrong with the exam space. Being in this last level of poisonous fog, Zetsu's health now dropped 3 units every second. It dropped 3 units. He couldn't believe that someone would be in the poisonous fog for so long. Could it be that someone in the poison encirclement is resisting the poison? On the right side of the Zetsu, Black Zetsu's incredulous voice had just sounded out when it was interrupted by White Zetsu's voice on the left half. Impossible. We're losing 3 units of health every second, and there was no opponent in the final area. That person would be in the poisonous fog for at least a few minutes. During this time, even if they have dozens of health units, it would be impossible for them to survive. White Zetsu's voice continued to ring. I think there must be something wrong with the exam space. We should be number 1. Amid White Zetsu's shrill cry, Zetsu's figure disappeared from the exam space the moment his health was reduced to 0. Hahaha. In the Shinobi world. Hearing Zetsu talking to himself on screen and watching him die from poison, the Shinobi crowd burst out laughing in unison. They had a touch of sympathy for Zetsu. This was because his opponent was Senjutsu Tsunade. If it was someone else, he might have gotten the final victory. Not to mention him, but anyone, if they hadn't seen Senjutsu Tsunade's work on the screen, wouldn't have thought that there was a person who could survive in the poisonous fog for so long. Thinking of Senjutsu Tsunade, everyone cast their eyes on the last screen where Senjutsu Tsunade was located. So much work. What a struggle. She had been poisoned since the beginning of the finals. From the beginning, she ate 1 military ration pill at a time, then 10 at a time. And now, she was eating them like crazy. Pouring a handful into her mouth and directly swallowing them while hardly chewing. Everyone had seen how Senjutsu Tsunade had reached her limit at the moment, but she was still sticking to it. If she eats like this, she won't be bursting to death, will she? A voice rang out. It stunned everyone, and their expressions suddenly turned solemn. Why didn't the exam space inform her of her victory? On the screen, Senjutsu Tsunade looked numb. Her hands were moving mechanically, scooping up pills. To suppress the feeling of nausea and vomiting from her body, Senjutsu Tsunade emptied her mind completely, desensitizing herself. Glancing at the small amount of military ration pills still at hand, a trace of stubbornness flashed in Senjutsu Tsunade's eyes. She was the best medical shinobi in the shinobi world. Naturally, she knew how long she could persist at her current rate of eating. 10 seconds. 10 seconds at most. I'll die. The intensity of the poisonous fog was still increasing. 5 seconds later, even if she had the adapt skill to reduce the damage caused by the poisonous fog would also cause 3 health units worth of damage instantaneously. In other words, after 5 then, the voice of the exam space resonated throughout the shinobi world. Extended version of the survival exam has ended. 5th place. Hyuganiji. Reward obtained. Exclusive healing card. Tied for 3rd place. Uchiha Sasuke, Uzumaki Naruto. Reward obtained. Problem resolution card. 2nd place. Zetsu. Reward obtained. Seal breaking card. 1st place. Senjutsu Tsunade. Reward obtained. Injury reset card. Special reward. Might Guy. Reward obtained. Fixed person resurrection card. As the sound of the examination space faded, the live broadcast of the examination space also dispersed completely. All that was left was a group of people who couldn't get enough of discussing what had just happened. Seal breaking card. Any kind of seal can be broken. Attach this card to the seal to take effect. Hiss. Black Zetsu sharply inhaled a cold breath and looked at the seal breaking card in his hand in disbelief. Any kind of seal can be broken. This can break any seal. This. Black Zetsu confirmed it several times to make sure he was reading it right. Shocking. He was ecstatic. The indescribable exhilaration instantly enveloped Black Zetsu. At this moment, Black Zetsu only felt that the exam space was awesome. The dissatisfaction he had in his heart about coming in second instantly disappeared. Second is great. Second is awesome. Fortunately, I was second. If I got first, wouldn't I miss out on this reward? Black Zetsu held the seal-breaking card in his hand, as if it was an incomparable precious treasure. In fact, it truly was. A seal-breaking card that could break all seals may just be a card with a special ability to others, but it was no less than the most valuable treasure to Black Zetsu. Because Black Zetsu could use the seal-breaking card and directly accomplish what he had been preparing for thousands of years. There was no need for the Rinnegan or to gather the knot. After all, the moon was also a seal, which could be completely broken by the seal-breaking card. Ha 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 ha. Black Zetsu laughed maniacally. He never felt so relaxed in his entire life. Zetsu-sama, this is the video of this exam. You should take a look at it. You are guaranteed to be amazed. A white Zetsu like Toby emerged from the ground and looked at Black Zetsu, who was laughing maniacally. When Black Zetsu saw that it was Toby, he nodded and asked Toby to play the exam recording. Unlike other white Zetsu, Toby was an individual with independent thoughts. Moreover, he was a wood-release jutsu with profound attainments and powerful strength. Because of this, Toby was ordered to record this exam by Black Zetsu. After hearing Toby say that there was something that would surprise him in this exam, Black Zetsu had some expectations. Now that he had the seal break card, he felt that there was nothing worthy of his attention in the shinobi world. A mere shinobi world, once mother is released from the seal, they would be suppressed with one strike. Black Zetsu thought so in his heart. However, when the video was played, he suddenly felt surprised. My name is Otsutsuki Toneri. The video sounded. Listening to Otsutsuki Toneri's words before he disappeared, Black Zetsu's heart suddenly reeled. It's the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. Almost instantly, Black Zetsu recognized Otsutsuki Toneri's origin. He knew that a wave of his mother's descendants had immigrated to the moon, but never thought that the other party would still be alive right now. Thousands of years have passed. Did the clan on the moon still preserve the legacy? Black Zetsu stared at Otsutsuki Toneri. He never dreamed that people with the surname Otsutsuki were still alive in the present shinobi world. Damn it. Black Zetsu was extremely angry at the moment. Originally, he was going to take White Zetsu directly to the moon through an Earthmoon portal to release his mother. But now there were Otsutsuki clan members on the moon, so it won't work. Black Zetsu understood that the existence of the Otsutsuki clan on the moon was to suppress their mother. They were definitely very strong and definitely not something that he and White Zetsus could defeat. Especially when the other party was on the moon and appeared in the exam space for the first time, but didn't look shocked. This not only showed that the live broadcast from the examination space could reach the moon, but also showed that the other party had the means to observe the Earth. Thinking of the thousands of years he had spent planning, and everything they had done may have been seen, Black Zetsu's heart suddenly felt extremely cold. Damn it. All the Otsutsuki branch clan deserves to die. Black Zetsu gritted his teeth, and his pure black face looked even darker. After watching the whole video, Black Zetsu was amazed at Might Guy's outburst in Tensugin's power. However, when compared to the news of the existence of Otsutsuki on the moon, these things that were sufficiently impressive had become unimportant. Toby, go find Ichihabito. Bring him, or bring his eyes back. Black Zetsu's words were full of killing intent. With the seal-breaking card, he didn't need to wait for the 10 tails Jinchuriki and Rinnegan, nor did he need to activate the Eye of the Moon. All he had to do now was simply rush up to the moon with a strong enough self-preservation force to stick the seal-breaking card on the moon. After watching Toby disappear into the ground, Black Zetsu summoned a White Zetsu, and took out a piece of Madara's tissue. Both hands flew to form a seal and finally slapped down viciously. In Pure World, he lived in the shinobi world for countless years, and arranged endless backups, and had made all kinds of preparations, especially for Uchiha Madara. Black Zetsu was prepared for everything, whether it was the Impure World reincarnation or making a special one for Madara, that could bring out his full strength at his peak. As one of the most powerful people in the shinobi world, Black Zetsu felt that even if the people of the moon were more powerful, with Madara around, plus his 100,000 White Zetsus, he could shelter himself from harm. Or rather, stall for time and hold off the Otsutsuki clan that lived on the moon to give himself time to use the seal-breaking card. As soon as the seal-breaking card was used on the moon, everything was worth it. Yes, Black Zetsu was ready to take the undead Madara and 100,000 White Zetsu straight to the moon. He didn't know how powerful the Otsutsuki branch clan on the moon was, but this was the greatest strength he could gather in the short term. As for letting Toby get Obito's eyes, that's another story. After all, with his understanding of Madara, Madara wouldn't follow his plan. Therefore, other external forces were needed to push Madara to follow him to the moon. Just as Black Zetsu was contemplating, the Impure World reincarnation technique in front of it had stopped surging. The White Zetsu body had disappeared, and an imposing figure had replaced it. With his appearance, an invisible pressure instantly pervaded. The figure was wearing the red armor of the Uchiha clan from the Warring States period, and his long, explosive hair swayed as he got up. Finally, that Nagato kid seems to have grown up a lot. Madara looked at Black Zetsu and smiled. His eternal mangekyou slowly turned, and the two dark brown cracks on his face not only didn't destroy his temperament, but gave him a terrifying aura of power. Uchiha Madara's gaze was slightly condensed, and Black Zetsu immediately felt the pressure increase on him. Fortunately, in a flash, Uchiha Madara withdrew his eyes. In the next moment, Madara's figure had disappeared. In place, only his faint voice remained. "I'm going to get my eyes back." Outside Konoha, a total of 43,000 shinobi from the 5 shinobi villages gathered to prepare for a surprise attack on Akatsuki in Omegakure. These people were all Chunin or above, all of them sharing a common resounding title in the shinobi world: Elite Shinobi. These shinobi were the most elite forces from each village. They had been brought out to participate in this attack at the moment, which reflected the attitude of each shinobi village toward Akatsuki. Because the leaders of each major shinobi village had already conducted a pre-battle motivational speech with all their shinobi before assembling. Although shinobi from the 5 shinobi villages were not fond of other shinobi villages, they understood who their common enemy was. Shinobi forces set out. As the 4th Reikage gave orders, the allied troops spontaneously divided into 5 parts and moved in masses. Looking at the allied troops marching, the 4th Reikage's gaze slightly sunk. He wondered how many of these people would be left in Omegakure during this raid on Akatsuki. After all, when facing an enemy of Akatsuki's caliber, it was obviously unrealistic for him to guarantee that all these shinobi would be brought back unharmed. Fortunately, the 4th Reikage had long been accustomed to death. He took a deep breath and suppressed all the emotions in his heart. "Tsunade, would you let Might Guy participate in the battle?" Terumi Mei's beautiful eyes swept back and forth across the Konoha group, which was led by Jiraiya, not finding Might Guy. Instead, she found a figure very similar to Might Guy, which surprised her. Might Guy is such a strong shinobi. Why didn't Konoha bring him? Konoha brought out all the elites this time. In order to prevent Akatsuki from invading Konoha while we're away, he needs to stay behind, just in case. Tsunade's voice sounded faint. Of course, she wouldn't tell the Mizukage that she left Might Guy in Konoha to protect it against the possible backstabbing from other shinobi villages, right? After passing the survival exam, Might Guy was now in Konoha, and his position in the shinobi world had greatly changed. It could be said that he was now a walking nuclear bomb. Leaving him in Konohagakure was a deadly deterrent to other shinobi villages, even if he was alone. As for the first half of the sentence, she really wasn't lying. This time, in order to successfully rescue Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, it could really be said that Konoha pulled out all the stops. She, Jiraiya, all the patriarchs of the great clans, and even half of the Anbu from Konoha, were mixing within the Konoha group. To bring these people back safely, Tsunade even brought the reward from the last exam. Might Guy's father, Might Dai-san, is also in the group. The 4th Reikage's voice sounded, and in the next moment, his figure appeared in front of the two. Might Guy said that Dai-san is stronger than he is. With Dai-san at the helm, we will win this battle. Terumi Mei rolled her eyes at A's praise towards Might Dai, then she shook her plump waist and returned to her group. "Mizukage-sama, you're back." When he saw Terumi Mei return, Ao hastily sidestepped and gave up the main seat to Terumi Mei. Terumi Mei nodded gently, then suddenly said, "I'll trouble you on this journey. Although we have the Hyuga clan from Konoha, I trust you more." "Yes." Ao nodded, then the chakra from his body converged towards his right eye. Such things were happening not only in the Kurigakure's forces, but also in the ranks of the other shinobi villages. It was worth mentioning that, because of the knowledge that one of Akatsuki's goals was the tailed beasts, the assembled allied forces lacked the presence of any single tailed beast Jinchuriki. So much chakra. Uchiha Madara, who emerged from Black Zetsu's place, sped along according to his own perception. He arrived at the border of the Land of Fire when he suddenly felt a large burst of chakra. Uchiha Madara's 3 Tomo Sharingan quietly turned, then he turned to another direction, and directly ran to where he felt the chakra was coming from. When he got Nagato's eyes, that was when he would truly be resurrected. So, he was going to take advantage of his current impure world reincarnation state, to try out some of the jutsu's power. These guys came just in time for him to give it a try, and by the way, announced to the world that Uchiha Madara had returned. "There's an anomaly 10 kilometers ahead. One person. Coming straight at us. He's fast, extremely fast. The opponent's state is very strange. I can't see any chakra fluctuations from the body, not even a heartbeat. Shit, he's targeting us. We've been spotted." Hearing the cry of surprise from the sensor division, everyone in the allied troops was stunned, then they whispered. "One person. He spotted us and dared to attack. Could it be Akatsuki's leader? Uzumaki Nagato? It shouldn't be him. If it were him, he would have brought his 6 other bodies with him. No heartbeat, shouldn't that be Pain's Diva Path? From the information Konoha's Jiraiya shared with us about Akatsuki, there's a good chance that this is Diva Path." "Ha, you dare to believe the words of someone from Konoha?" Up from the third Hokage and Shimura Danzo, down to Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Obito, which of them do you think are trustworthy? But, at a time like this, he shouldn't be lying. Can you find out who the other party is? The fourth Raikage's figure instantly appeared in front of the allied troops. He expectantly asked the sensory division shinobi, but the other side shook their heads bitterly. Everybody, get ready to fight. The fourth Raikage patted his opponent's shoulder with reassurance, then gave an order. With his orders, 43,000 shinobi suddenly spread out, one by one, looking for a useful terrain that suited their skills, and got ready for the attack. And at this moment, all the sensory shinobi noticed that the figure paused for a moment, then its speed instantly skyrocketed and rushed towards them. It was as if he could see the allied troops preparing for battle, and it seemed their preparations for battle made him even more excited. It's coming. With a low cry from Inoki, the third Tsuchikage, a figure violently leaped and appeared on the high plateau opposite everyone. With the light behind him, no one could see the figure's face, only saw a black figure appearing in the dazzling light. Nonetheless, those who saw that figure felt the air around them suddenly becoming heavy. It felt as if there was an invisible pressure appearing together with that figure. In the next moment, when the crowd who were looking up saw the figure more clearly, a burst of screams suddenly sounded, along with people sucking in a breath of cold air. Uchiha Madara. Impossible. This is impossible. How could he still be alive? How could he be here? Gulp. No one knew who swallowed first, but instantly, everyone's throat subconsciously rolled. Now they only felt that their throats were dry, and they were just like fish that was about to die from thirst. They felt like they were dreaming. The myth of the shinobi world Uchiha Madara, he abruptly appeared in front of them. Looking at the proud figure looking down on the crowd from above, feeling his overwhelming aura, everyone felt their scalp tingling. They didn't think that Uchiha Madara would come to visit them in this situation. Uchiha Madara. Inoki's eyes snapped open and stared fixedly at Uchiha Madara, as if his eyes were about to pop out. His mouth was wide open, and the shocked expression on his face was currently frozen. Even in his wildest dreams, he never thought that he would see this man at this time. When he was young, the second Tsuchikage took him to Konoha. At that time, he saw Uchiha Madara's prestige. After so many years, Uchiha Madara was still a figure that brought him nightmares. He thought that living a long life was a good thing. After all, he survived longer than Konoha's Senju Tobirama and Konoha's Uchiha Madara. Not only did he witness the magical exam space, but he even saw the 5 shinobi villages come together. But now, it seemed like there was such a thing as living for far too long. He lived long enough to see Uchiha Madara's return. Looking at the other party, who surprisingly looked like he was in his prime. Inoki was so shocked that it couldn't be described. What's with the cracks on him? The forbidden impure world reincarnation. Chiyo slowly walked over with her hands behind her back, looking old and dull. If one looked closely at her fingertips, one could see dozens of chakra puppet strings attached to each of her fingers. I don't know, but it should be the jutsu that Akatsuki is going to use for the fourth war. Tsunade's words stunned everyone. They knew that the exam space once said that in the future, a man named Kabuto and Akatsuki's Setsu would hold back everyone from the allied shinobi forces. At that time, many people had guessed that these two would use some sort of means of controlling the dead. But they didn't expect to see Akatsuki use such a terrifying technique right now. And, it was as if the opponent knew they were coming, so Akatsuki simply sent a revived Uchiha Madara to meet them here. Just as all of the shinobi troops were watching at Uchiha Madara, he was watching them. With just 2 glances, he already knew everything. No wonder Black Setsu said there was a change of plan, and had to change his plans to awaken him within pure world reincarnation. It turned out that the situation had turned chaotic to this extent. To prevent his own resurrection, the 5 major shinobi villages put aside their hatred to form an allied shinobi force to fight. Uchiha Madara's eyes flickered for a moment, and a twinge in his heart made him think he might have been overthinking it. But on second thought, besides him, who else could get all the shinobi villages to gather together and form an alliance? Uchiha Madara was instantly relieved. He looked at the many nervous shinobi below, and didn't even try to hide the disdain on his face. A mere 40,000 to 50,000 people, coming to intercept me, Uchiha Madara. Too little. Leaping down to the ground, Uchiha Madara walked straight towards the allied shinobi forces. Uchiha Madara didn't hurry. He was just walking normally, with no speed to speak of. But as the footsteps sounded, everyone noticed that their hearts were starting to beat abnormally. Uchiha Madara's footsteps seemed to control their hearts, and every time his foot landed, their hearts would thump louder. That was because of fear. Uchiha Madara's footsteps slowly accelerated, along with the heartbeat of the shinobi troops. Cold sweat dripped down from the faces of the shinobi troops, who were already finding it difficult to breathe right now. Some started to breathe through their mouths. They didn't notice that the cold sweat on their faces flowed down the corners of their mouths, and they couldn't tell whether it was sweat or saliva. Gulp. The sounds of gulps once again rang out as everyone looked at Uchiha Madara in horror. He's alone. Only one person, facing the 43,000 shinobi troops from all over the shinobi world, and still dared to take the lead in charging in. And, surprisingly, they were the ones to feel nervous and afraid. Damn it, this kind of war, this is Uchiha Madara. At the moment, the allied shinobi forces thought they were going crazy. Driven crazy by the atmosphere on this battlefield. This oppressive aura and tense atmosphere made them feel that every breath was incomparably heavy. Even the air seemed to be mixed with a certain feeling. Every time they breathed, their chests were burning. Damn it. We have so many people, why can't we kill him? Kill him. Attack. No one knew who was the first to break down and couldn't suppress the fear in their heart. The person screamed out and took the lead in charging. This movement caused the other shinobi, who was also under extreme tension, to follow. Now the whole allied shinobi forces rushed towards Uchiha Madara like a tidal wave. Damn it. Seeing the momentum of the troops broken, the fourth Raikage's expression suddenly changed. Without his command, the troops suddenly charged. Damn it, do you want to die so badly? This was the most taboo scenario on the battlefield. Especially since these people were no match for Uchiha Madara. Charging up like that would be inviting their own deaths. There were so many people who wanted to fight, so they should have covered the attack with long-range jutsu first. If he could start over, he would have strangled the first shinobi who broke down. That person's mentality was so weak. Why was he even a shinobi? Damn it. The fourth Raikage cursed again. Although something went wrong, he knew that he could no longer give an order to retreat at this time. Now, the morale of the troops was broken. If he gave the order to retreat, these allied troops would be crushed instantly. It would all turn into a mess. Let's go. After the fourth Raikage said so, he launched lightning release and also rushed forward. Suddenly, he saw Might Dai's green glow light up, and he hastened to stop it. Dai-san, the lethality of your Jujutsu is too great. There are too many people around Madara right now. You should sweep the line first, don't make a move. The fourth Raikage knew Might Guy's 8 gates release formations Evening Elephant and Night Guy. When Might Guy used that red stream of aura, it could hurt people. A single stream of air driven by one move could kill a cage, not to mention ordinary shinobi. Might Dai was stronger than Guy. In this situation, A would certainly stop. He knew that the other party was right. The power was indeed too much when he had the gates fully open. He could kill 4 of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist. This showed how powerful he was. Especially after his resurrection, he heard that his son, Might Guy, had repeatedly defeated cages in the duel arena. This made him understand how profound the 8 gates truly was. 8 gates. More powerful than cages. Okay, I'll sweep the line for everyone first. If no one can fight him, I'll make a move. On the other hand, looking at the dense army of shinobi coming at him, the corners of Uchiha Madara's lips were slightly raised. One person vs 43,000. This is kind of interesting. Very well, do you want to dance too? Uchiha Madara laughed wildly, and his body suddenly accelerated. In an instant, he collided with the shinobi in the front lines. Boom. The moment the two came into contact, the shinobi that was struck into the air by the tremendous force screamed and fell towards the ground. He felt that they had collided with a running bull instead of a man. In front of this tremendous power, there was no chance of resistance. He was directly thrown off his feet. Not only him, but other shinobi who came into contact with Uchiha Madara felt this way. Uchiha Madara rampaged all the way, hitting dozens of people one after another. Then, as if drilling himself into the center of the allied shinobi forces, and fought with tens of thousands of shinobi. Boom. 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 Every time Uchiha Madara's attack fell, a shinobi from the alliance fell to the ground. Fists, elbows, wrists, legs, feet, and even forehead. At this moment, every part of Uchiha Madara's body was used as a weapon, as he wildly attacked them. The 3 Tomo Sharingan in his eyes turned, taking in all the movements of the attacking shinobi. His body moved a small fraction to the side, avoiding an opponent's kunai attack. A palm slice severed his opponent's arm that was holding the kunai. He instantly threw the kunai into another shinobi's chest, with the arm still on it. His feet kept moving. He dodged a kunai with an explosive tag on it, while instantly taking the tag off and sticking it to another shinobi that rushed up to him, and pushed the guy away with a palm strike. Boom. The explosive tag instantly exploded, releasing flames that engulfed his opponent. At that moment, a shinobi had already rushed toward Uchiha Madara, spinning the giant sword in his hand to harvest Uchiha Madara's head. Uchiha Madara's expression remained unchanged. He used Sharingan's illusion technique to stop his enemy's movements directly in front of him. In the next moment, the kunai in his hand was directly shoved into the other party's head. Uchiha Madara was extremely fast, so fast that the other shinobi couldn't see his movements. The shinobi at the center were already dead before they could react. Uchiha Madara lightly moved with his long black hair swaying behind him. He was fighting and killing on the battlefield, but it gave out the feeling of someone who was dancing. It was clearly a one-sided massacre, but Uchiha Madara made it look glorious. Killing seemed to turn into some sort of enjoyment for him. At the moment, in the chaotic battlefield, Uchiha Madara had transformed into a lofty and arrogant dancer, performing his wonderful solo dance. Unfortunately, no one in the allied shinobi force could match his performance. In other words, no one could keep up with his combat speed and rhythm. Uchiha Madara attacked feverishly, dodging and parrying everyone's attacks on him, and then retaliating with lightning-fast strikes. As Uchiha Madara rampaged along, the number of deaths skyrocketed, making the alliance leaders, who were watching Madara's battle and looking for Madara's weaknesses, unable to sit still. Boom. In a flash, Tsunade's figure suddenly appeared beside Uchiha Madara, and suddenly threw a fierce punch at Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara couldn't dodge and was directly blown away. After several tumbles, Uchiha Madara slowly got up and patted the dust off his armor. Fire release. Great fire annihilation. No one could see how he made the seals. Everyone only saw that when Uchiha Madara's words fell, a horrible sea of fire that couldn't be described with words instantly spewed out of his mouth. Uchiha Madara spat out flames that were so hot that they directly scorched and blew up the ground. What's even more frightening was the fact that Uchiha Madara's fire release jutsu, which was extremely large in scope, actually enveloped everyone in the allied shinobi forces. The flames hadn't arrived yet, but the scorching heat wave had already reached them. The shinobi crowd could already smell the burnt scent in the air. Kiri Shinobi. Water formation wall. Terumi Mei shouted and took the lead in forming a seal. Behind her, all the Kiri Shinobi who knew the water formation wall jutsu followed her and formed their seals. Water release. Water formation wall as Kiri Shinobi, because of their environment, everyone knew how to use water release techniques. Even if water formation wall jutsu was more demanding, most of them could unleash it. Especially since other shinobi villages knew this jutsu, at this time, there was no need to care about anything else. They were all moving together. At this moment, nearly 4,000 to 5,000 people unleashed the water formation wall together, spitting out water like a river breaking its banks, sweeping against Uchiha Madara's fire release jutsu. Whoosh. The meeting of water and fire instantly created a large amount of steam. Steam filled the air, instantly turning the battlefield into a world of white mist. At the moment, because of the confrontation between the two jutsus, the world seemed to be split in half by fire and water, revealing two different colors. Oh, no. He's coming. No one knew who shouted in horror, but in the next moment, screams sounded, one after another. Those who were close died one after another, and those who were far away could only see the glint of a blade and the red glow of a fire release jutsu. Space him out. Chiyo waved her hands and controlled a dozen puppets to fly towards Uchiha Madara in dense fog. Seeing the explosive tag and sealing technique on the puppets, Uchiha Madara grunted coldly and leaped backward. Great Bowler Sengen. It was unknown when, but Jiraiya had used Sage Mode. At this moment, with two toads on his shoulders, he suddenly appeared behind Uchiha Madara. With Jiraiya's explosive cry, a Rasengan ball, several times larger than himself, instantly appeared in his hand and was blasted at Uchiha Madara. Holding the Rasengan, Jiraiya looked cold. This was his strongest attack other than Bath of Boiling Oil. Facing a guy like Uchiha Madara, he couldn't be careless. Earth Release. Moving Earth Core. Inoki had a lot of combat experience. Seeing Jiraiya's sneak attack, without saying another word, he directly slapped the ground. The ground beneath Uchiha Madara's feet suddenly rose up. From a distance, it looked like Uchiha Madara himself went to greet Jiraiya's attack. Boom. A violent rumble rang out. A powerful shockwave erupted from where the two collided, sweeping towards everyone below. The earth pillar summoned by Inoki suffered an irresistible force. It collapsed, filling the sky with dust. A hit. Was it a hit? The allied shinobi force crowd looked at Uchiha Madara, who was surrounded by the Rasengan, in surprise. They didn't know what jutsu Jiraiya used, but they all knew that Jiraiya was now in that so-called Sage Mode, and should be extremely strong. Just when everyone was staring at the rolling dust, a blue light suddenly glowed inside. The blue light widely broke out. In the next moment, a nearly 100 meters high Susanoo appeared. Is this the full-bodied Susanoo we saw in the exam space? A full-bodied Susanoo. Isn't that something that's only in the exam space? Did Uchiha Sasuke only use half of it in reality before? Damn it, could it be that everything in the exam space exists in the shinobi world? The Tensoken and the Golden Wheel reincarnation explosion are also real. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. It's really impossible. Everyone, don't get carried away. You see, Uchiha Madara's eyes are only the Mangekyo right now. If it's really as shown in the exam space, wouldn't he also have the Rinnegan? That's right, in that case, there's nothing to be afraid of. Everyone quickly use Wind Release together. Shimura Danzo could cut through Susanoo with Wind Release, so can we. A shinobi who was good at analyzing battles quickly put his analysis into words, stabilizing the troops' morale. Seeing that everyone was starting to prepare Wind Release seals, he nodded and then added, "Attention, everyone. Don't stab Susanoo with a kunai like Shimura Danzo. Danzo has shown us that blades are useless against Susanoo." Once this statement was made, the battlefield's original depressing and tense atmosphere suddenly turned a bit more optimistic. Wind Release. Vacuum Sphere. Wind Release. Vacuum Wave. Wind Release. Pressure Damage. Wind Release jutsus wildly flew toward Uchiha Madara's Susanoo, but they didn't have any effect. When hitting Susanoo, not even a ripple was seen. All the shinobi were suddenly dumbfounded. Could it be that Wind Release couldn't resist Susanoo? Before they could understand what was going on, Uchiha Madara's Susanoo suddenly generated 2 extra arms, and then 4 blue chakra blades appeared in its hands. It directly slashed toward an area with the largest number of shinobi standing. The huge chakra blade crashed with a bang, shredding the earth. 4 huge slashes appeared on the ground, extending wildly in all directions. Ah, run. Run. At this moment, the allied shinobi forces finally felt scared and utterly terrified of Uchiha Madara's techniques. Damn it. Senjutsune's face instantly changed when she saw the overwhelming chakra attack. Although this attack wouldn't threaten her, and she didn't care about it, the allied shinobi forces would surely suffer casualties under this attack. Moreover, if the allied shinobi forces were heavily defeated before they even left the Land of Fire, they would be even less of a match for Akatsuki in the future. I can only use that. Senjutsune's expression revealed a trace of pain. Originally, she wasn't going to use this thing, but now, she couldn't care less. Injury reset. Senjutsune turned her hand, and in the next moment, an odd card appeared in her hand. She directly crushed the card in her hand. Whoosh. At the moment when the card was crushed, an invisible wave instantly appeared across the battlefield. Injury reset card. With this card, your friendly troops will be reset when attacked, and would only die after taking 3 lethal attacks. Uchiha Madara's brow slightly wrinkled, a bit surprised by the shinobi who he had beheaded with a hand slash. The chopping blows swept right through their body without causing any damage. Illusion technique. Uchiha Madara hesitated for a moment. He didn't think anyone in the shinobi world could stealthily pull him into an illusion technique. He slashed his hand back once again, sweeping it. If Uchiha Madara could see through their eyes, he would be able to see that each of them had 3 units of health above their heads. No, that's not true. To be exact, the shinobi who died once had 2 units of health above their heads. The shinobi who had just been beheaded twice by Madara only had a solitary health unit above his head. This meant that if he was attacked again, he would completely die. From now on, shinobi with 1 unit of health withdraw from the battlefield. Shinobi with 2 health units pull away from the fight. Use long-range jutsu attacks. Shinobi with 3 health units and all the cages. Fight to the death. Senjutsune's voice sounded on the battlefield, attracting all the shinobi who were stunned by the sudden changes. They saw her standing there with great momentum, pointing to Uchiha Madara, with her face full of determination. At this moment, Senjutsune's heroic appearance simply stunned everyone. In the next instant, everyone saw her form some strange seals with her hands. Yin seal. Release. 2 strange patterns appeared on her face, and her momentum instantly reached its peak. Then, they saw her body slightly bend, accumulating energy on her footing, then exploded and shot at Uchiha Madara. Hahaha. You've got guts, Tsunade. Reikage, will give you that. The 4th Reikage burst into laughter. His cloudy expression instantly disappeared. He never imagined that Senjutsunade, who was pushed out because there was no one to succeed the Hokage in Konoha, would have such boldness. Just now, he was worried about the damage towards his Kumo shinobi, but Senjutsunade had taken out the injury reset card, and her arrangement left him with no worries. Glancing at the 3 health units above his head, the 4th Reikage no longer hesitated. With a whoosh, he directly swept towards Uchiha Madara like a thunderbolt. Lightning release. Chakra armor. The 4th Reikage's speed was really impressive. He clearly made his move after Senjutsunade, but he appeared in front of Uchiha Madara before Senjutsunade. Lightning oppression horizontal chop. Boom. Crash. An attack hit Susanoo. Although it hit the outside, the great force shattered part of Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. Secret technique. Shadow stitching jutsu. Narashikaku, seeing Uchiha Madara stunned by the sudden outburst of the crowd, controlled his shadow to form black tentacles. He grabbed Uchiha Madara's ankle and threw him directly towards Tsunade from inside Susanoo. Tsunade Sama. Chance. Seeing Uchiha Madara being thrown out, Jiraiya, who was looking for a chance to attack, suddenly started, "Great Sage Toads, help me." Yes. Sage technique. Bath of boiling oil. Jiraiya and the two toads on his shoulders quickly made seals together. In an instant, the three techniques of oil, wind, and fire simultaneously flew towards Uchiha Madara. The oil held the fire, and the fire lent its power to the wind. The flames swept across the sky, and Jiraiya's strongest technique covered Uchiha Madara. Ha! In flames, Uchiha Madara sneered. Then his eyes fluttered and directly transformed into Rinnegan under Jiraiya's shocked gaze. "Your jutsu doesn't work on me." Uchiha Madara absorbed Jiraiya's bath of boiling oil directly with Rinnegan. But before he could speak, a low grunt from Senju Tsunade came from behind. "Hi." Senju Tsunade, who had been building up her strength for a long time, blasted Uchiha Madara with a fist that carried 10,000 pounds of force. Before Uchiha Madara could react, an unimaginably large force exploded on top of his body. Boom. Amidst the loud noise, Uchiha Madara's body was viciously smashed into the ground. Earth release. Swamp of the underworld. Fire release. Flame bullet. Lightning release. Lightning blade. Seeing that Uchiha Madara was overthrown, for a moment, everyone in the allied shinobi forces displayed their most powerful jutsu and attacked the location Uchiha Madara had fallen to. Various kinds of elements and techniques were thrown out. The ground was smashed down by several feet. Watching the chaotic and violent 5 elements of chakra rampage wildly over there, the crowd of allied forces finally stopped. Did it work? It should have. Even if he's Uchiha Madara, he couldn't have survived this level of jutsu attack. Wait. What's that? The shinobi pointed ahead in horror, where a piece of paper like pieces of earth flew together and, in the blink of an eye, formed a human figure. Uchiha Madara. What the hell is this? How could he come back to life? No, that's not right. He's immortal. Damn it, how can we fight this monster? We can only die 3 times, while he can die countless times. Wait a minute, does he also have a limit on how many times he could come back to life? The shouts of the allied shinobi were heard in her ears, making Senju Tsunade's already darkened face even darker. She knew. Seeing how Uchiha Madara looked now, Senju Tsunade finally understood. This technique. It's the technique Granduncle Tobirama created. Damn it, Uchiha Madara's state is actually an impure world reincarnation. Tsunade Uchiha Madara, and also Rinnegan. Jiraiya appeared behind Senju Tsunade and spoke with an unpleasant look on his face. He had witnessed the abnormality of Uzumaki Nagato's Rinnegan, and witnessed the strength of Uchiha Sasuke in the survival exam. Even if Jiraiya was strong, the Rinnegan had cast a great shadow in his heart. Yes. I saw it. Tsunade nodded solemnly, her expression unspeakably grim. Recognizing that Uchiha Madara's present state was in pure world reincarnation, she knew that the surprise attack had failed. Madara's state, you recognize it. The second Hokage is in pure world reincarnation. Yeah. Look for opportunities to take everyone to retreat. I and the other cages will stay behind. Without advanced preparation of the sealing technique, we're simply no match for him. Senju Tsunade glanced at Jiraiya, wanting to say something. Too many stray fish. The reanimated Uchiha Madara coldly stared at the many shinobi below. He didn't know what happened to these shinobi just now, but if he couldn't kill them once, then he could kill them twice. If twice doesn't work, then thrice, and more. Uchiha Madara clasped his hands together, forming a strange seal, and then a Susanoo suddenly appeared on his body again. It was different from the Susanoo just now. This time Uchiha Madara's Susanoo was just half a body. But it was half a Susanoo with 2 faces on one body. What's even more frightening was that his 2-faced Susanoo was actually forming seals at the same time as him, casting a jutsu. Ninja technique. Tengai Shinsei. As Uchiha Madara's emotionless voice rang out, everyone was shocked to find that the sky turned dark. No. This. A shinobi who looked up at the sky suddenly fell on the ground on his butt. He looked at the sky in despair. At that time, his face was full of disbelief. God, it's the power of a god. Everyone was shocked by his appearance, and at the moment they looked at the sky, an unimaginable huge meteorite was falling from the sky. It was also because it covered the sky above their heads. Everyone was plunged into darkness. This can't be. This is impossible. Among the shinobi, a yellow-haired Kunoichi looked at the falling meteorite and fell straight to her knees. 2 kunai slipped from her hands and fell on both sides of her body. The appearance of this meteorite completely shattered her will, leaving her with no will to fight. Especially this meteorite was too big. Even if it slowly descended, the crowd couldn't run out of its attack range. Plop. Plop plop. The sounds of people throwing weapons on the ground rang everywhere, and the shinobi who gave up their struggles looked at the meteorites overhead in despair, while some people simply closed their eyes and waited for death to come. The difference is too great. This isn't just a matter of strength. Hey, what are you doing standing still? You still have several lives left. Run. Run as far as you can. Inoki screamed angrily, waking everyone up from their despair. Yeah, we still have some lives. If one health unit ran out, they still had the second unit. At that time, everyone began to evacuate quickly. Even those who were ready to give up, stood up and frantically ran beyond the center of the battlefield. All kinds of speed-assisting evasion techniques were desperately used, and at this moment, these shinobi only regretted that their parents didn't give them an extra pair of legs. The rest of you, don't hang your heads, do what you can. At this moment, Inoki fully demonstrated the quality and charm of the older generation of shinobi. His body floated, but not to retreat. He flew straight towards the falling meteorite. Earth release. Ultra-lightweight rock technique. In midair, Inoki's voice rang out with all his might. Everyone watched in horror as he slapped his hands fiercely on the meteorite, trying to reduce its weight as much as possible and lower the speed of its descent. Skywalk. Seeing Inoki ready to withstand the meteorite alone, although, in the shinobi world, only Senju Hashirama was qualified to be his opponent, but Senju Taburama, that guy Senju Hashirama's younger brother. Two ninjas who can fly. Looking at the two men who tried their best to stop the meteorite, Uchiha Madara was surprised. He recognized the little old man. He should be the fence-sitter brat from Iwagakure, but the other one, with two toads squatting on his shoulders. He should be a guy that half-assed the sage mode, though I really don't know who he is. Haha, and you want to block my technique. The corners of Uchiha Madara's mouth picked up when she saw that the meteorite's fall actually slowed down under the combined efforts of the two men. What will you do about the second one, Inoki? Boom. Without seeing any movement from Uchiha Madara, a second meteorite crashed down and directly collided with the first meteorite. In an instant, a large amount of debris began to crumble and splash in all directions. They were rubble, but they were huge rocks themselves. For the shinobi of the Alliance, these were already huge enough stones. Dodging the falling stone attack with all their might, the group frantically ran away beyond the range of the attack. But there was too much debris, and the power it carried was extremely strong. So, when the allied shinobi ran out of the attack range, they were shocked to find that the health units on their heads had, at some point, decreased to the last one. At this moment, the elation of the aftermath of the disaster instantly enveloped them. They gratefully looked at the center area, where a large number of boulders were still falling, and where Chiyo and Tsunade were continuing to attack Uchiha Madara, blocking Uchiha Madara's interference with Inoki and Jiraiya. Now, when youth blooms. Gate of Death. Open. The red chakra vapor burned on Might Dai's body, who had been sweeping the formation, and his momentum was astonishing. It's Dai-san. Seeing Might Dai ready to strike, whether it was the fourth Reikage, Terumi-mei, or Chiyo, they were all deeply relieved. Chiyo, in particular, was already controlling her puppets to build a sealing jutsu, ready to wait for Dai to beat Madara to death and take advantage of Madara's resurrection to seal him completely. When it came to the sealing techniques, in the shinobi world, if the sealing techniques of Sunagakure claimed third place, no one would dare to claim second. The sealing techniques from Sunagakure had never been intimidated by anyone, except the Uzumaki clan. At the same time, seeing the red vapor on Might Dai's body, Uchiha Madara's heart jolted. 8 Gates Red Vapor. The Gate of Death. This was the first time Uchiha Madara had seen this technique being used, and he couldn't afford to be careless. The giant full-bodied Susanoo appeared once again, and his voice only spread out. Now, you only have 2 lives left, right? Uchiha Madara's questioning words were uttered in a certain tone. He had noticed that when they were attacked 3 times by a deadly attack, several shinobi on the battlefield had died. Evening Elephant. Without answering, Might Dai hammered his fists hard into the air in front of him, and instantly, an air cannon appeared and blasted towards Uchiha Madara. And he himself dashed towards Uchiha Madara. WHOOSH Evening Elephant's air cannon hit Uchiha Madara's perfect Susanoo, but surprisingly, not even half a chakra spark was seen. This scene stunned everyone. It shouldn't be. Why didn't it work? At least it should have pierced through Susanoo. The 4th Reikage could crack Madara's Susanoo, but the 8 Gates Evening Elephant couldn't. That doesn't make sense. After all, in the survival exam, Might Dai killed Inoki with this technique. His strength shouldn't be this much. For a moment, everyone who had high hopes for Might Dai was shocked. Suddenly, they snapped to attention and looked at Might Dai. Might Dai said that Dai was powerful, and he was Might Dai's father, so people subconsciously thought that he was better than Dai. Could it be that Might Dai is not as strong as Might Dai? Thinking about that, the several cages from other shinobi villages looked at the 4th Reikage strangely. All journey long, Daisan this and Daisan that, this is the strength of a man who is highly respected by Reikage. At that moment, the fourth Reikage's face turned even darker. He never thought that Might Guy's claim that Might Dai was much stronger than him was false. Where is his strength at? Dying quickly. Although their momentum is almost the same technique in his hands, and Guy's hands had the differences of heaven and earth. Damn it. Damn it. Damn Might Guy. The fourth Reikage gnashed his teeth, but the gazes from the other cages made his face feel hot. He couldn't wait to rush up and hit Uchiha Madara to death. To add to his shame, Might Dai, his whole body was burning with red vapor, was directly captured by Uchiha Madara's Susanoo. Then there was a loud crash. He was crushed raw. A moment later, Might Dai appeared aside. It was worth mentioning that, at this moment, Might Dai only had one health unit left. Jiraiya. Catch. Hearing Tsunade's words, Jiraiya didn't think twice. He directly rushed towards Might Dai, picking up the flabbergasted Dai by the waist, and running towards the outer circle of the battle. Seeing his opponent leave through the air, Uchiha Madara looked at the 5 people left behind, and decided not to waste any more time. Would release. Advent of a world of flowering trees. As Uchiha Madara's voice fell, a large number of giant vines instantly snaked out of the ground, and in the blink of an eye, a sea of trees completely enveloped the crowd. The world of flowering trees directly killed Chiyo, Terumi Mei, and Tsunade, and their health units on their heads were instantly reduced by 1. Only Inoki, who was flying in the air, managed to avoid the world of flowering trees. Damn it. It's not over yet. Watch out for the pollen, everyone. Senju Tsunade looked grave. The advent of a world of flowering trees was her grandfather's technique, and she couldn't understand why Uchiha Madara would use it. And it's not just nativity of a world of trees, but advent of a world of flowering trees. With Tsunade's reminder, the originally huge and budding flowers instantly bloomed, and a large amount of yellow pollen floated out of them and scattered in the air. Without waiting for their 5 cages to make a move, Uchiha Madara's voice sounded. Another big fire for you. Fire release. Great fire annihilation. Boom. The fire swept through the sky. It quickly combined with the thick pollen floating on the battlefield to form a violent explosion. That's not all. Because of the pollen, there was a secondary explosion surrounding the cages. It was caused by the pollen catching fire in midair. The roar of explosions spread. Inoki's giant stone protection was instantly broken. Immediately after, the Mizukage's water wall protection was also torn apart. After the flames had raged, the health units on the heads of 5 people were reduced to the last one. One more death and you're all completely dead. Uchiha Madara revealed a cruel smile. Whether it's the 5 cages, or whatever secret technique, it's all in vain. In front of my Susanoo, Uchiha Madara's words fell, and in everyone's shocked eyes, Susanoo, who was 100 meters tall, instantly grew several times taller. So gigantic. Seeing the blue Susanoo summoned by Uchiha Madara a second time, Chiyo, Terumi Mei, and others directly froze. They were stiff all over and mechanically looked at the complete body Susanoo summoned by Uchiha Madara, and their blood seemed to freeze. At this moment, Uchiha Madara's Susanoo could no longer be called a giant, but a giant amongst giants. This is even bigger than the one in the exam space. A drop of cold sweat slid down the forehead of the 4th Reikage, who noticed that the Susanoo in front of him was even bigger than the meteorite next to it. Visually, it looked at least over 800 meters tall. 800 meters. What the hell is this? It's not over. Uchiha Madara's domineering voice sounded, and then his fists fiercely clenched, said. With his words, the Susanoo he summoned instantly donned a set of blue battle attire, and on each hand, it held 2 huge chakra battle swords. Looking at Susanoo standing there proudly, seeing that it was far beyond common sense, the 5 cages' morale collapsed. They thought that as cages, even if there was a gap between them and the former shinobi legend, it shouldn't be too big. But who would have thought? Could this simply be called a gap? It's called a chasm. An insurmountable chasm. He's too strong. This pressure, we're no match at all. And this chakra, it's over. Inoki looked at Uchiha Madara's huge, full-bodied Susanoo, and simply gave up on the jutsu he had prepared. At this moment, he was reminded of the fear that was given to him by Uchiha Madara. Not only him, but the other cages, at this moment, gave up on their struggle. They stared up at Uchiha Madara in astonishment, not even thinking of running away. They just waited, quietly and desperately, for Uchiha Madara's butcher knife to come down. The candidates for the exam are ready. Do you want to start the exam? In a megacure. A system screen suddenly popped up in front of his eyes, causing Ryuji to flinch. Didn't we just finish an exam? Why would I want to start another exam? Didn't I just get that great 96th place ranking? Haku, I have an urgent matter. I won't practice today. Haku and the other teammate waved, and Ryuji quickly ran to an empty corner. Start the exam. Whoosh. There was a flash of light, and Ryuji's body instantly disappeared from the place. In the next moment, he had already appeared above the exam space. It's just that when he saw Madara's impure world reincarnation figure below, he was instantly dumbstruck. Haku, where's Ryuji? Conan's figure suddenly appeared in front of Haku, quietly looking at him. These days, she had been taking time out to train Haku's team, and secretly watching this shinobi named Ryuji. No, he didn't look like a shinobi at all. Or rather, he simply didn't deserve to be called a shinobi. He had none of the qualities that a ninja should have. I really don't know how people like him are able to use chakra control. Conan felt that she was on the verge of giving up on him and the other genin, and would be happy just to train Haku in peace. Haku was about to speak when a huge screen suddenly appeared in front of them. On the screen, the 5 cages looked tattered. There was also a proud man with cracks on his body opposite them, instantly attracting their full attention. Madara. Seeing Madara and the 5 cages on the screen, Black Zetsu was shocked. Uchiha Madara went to look for Uzumaki Nagato to get his eyes, didn't he? How did he end up meeting the 5 cages? He also got pulled into the exam space. This. I don't think there would be any questions about me seeing Madara and the 5 cages appear in the exam space together. Black Zetsu suddenly had a bad feeling. He felt Uchiha Madara, no, the entire shinobi world was going to move in an uncontrollable direction again. In the shinobi world, people weren't satisfied with the last exam, and were delighted to see the live broadcast had started again. They didn't expect the exam space would be so efficient. A dozen hours ago, the survival exam had just finished, and now another exam was going to take place. Everyone looked towards their screens again. The first thing they noticed was the 5 cages. When they got a good look at them, everyone was stunned. What's going on? Aren't these the 5 leaders of the major shinobi villages? Why are they in such a mess? Could it be that the 5 leaders of the villages have fought? Is this a battle between the 5 of them? That's not right. They're standing together. They're obviously working together. Shit. They didn't go and challenge Might Guy, did they? Some people in the shinobi world let out puzzled shouts. Some of them felt that the 5 leaders were there to challenge Might Guy. After all, they couldn't imagine who could beat them into this state, except for Might Guy, since it wasn't a battle between the 5 shinobi villages. Even the leader of that Akatsuki group couldn't, right? It's just that when they saw the arrogant figure standing across the 5, sounds of people gasping resounded all over. That person. Isn't that Uchiha Madara? That's really him. I've seen sculptures of him and the first Hokage. But that's impossible, right? Well, why is he in the exam space? He came back to life. But what's with those cracks on his body? He doesn't look like a living person at all. It's hard to say who could beat the 5 leaders into this state. But if it was him, it's totally possible, right? In the shinobi world, everyone saw Uchiha Madara's figure and intensely speculated on what had happened. They found that every time the exam space appeared, it would bring with it new surprises. Whether it was the birth of Akatsuki, the death of the Kazugaken Hokage, or the evolution of the Byakugan or Sharingan, and now in the 4th exam, Uchiha Madara was resurrected. Looking at the 6 people who were about to take the exam, they felt that they had lived for so many years, but all the surprises added up weren't as much as the ones brought out by the few times the exam space had appeared. They felt like they were going out of their minds, numbed by the raw shock from the exam space. Especially those allied shinobi forces who were lucky enough to survive the battlefield. When they saw that Uchiha Madara and the 5 leaders appeared in the exam space, they all looked expressionless. Having experienced the true horror of Uchiha Madara, they felt that whatever happened next could no longer surprise them. Not to mention that this time Uchiha Madara entered the exam space to answer questions. Even if next time, all the members of the Uchiha clan were resurrected and appeared in the exam space to answer questions, they could guarantee that they wouldn't be surprised. This was how much they grew after what they experienced. Madara. Uchiha Fugaku stared at Uchiha Madara's figure on the screen. In the next moment, his figure instantly disappeared from place, flying toward the building above the Megakure. Only Uzumaki Kushina and Uchiha Mikoto, who was reminiscing, were left in place. At this moment, they were also shocked by the image on the screen. After a few flashes, Uchiha Fugaku appeared in front of Nagato. Did you tell Orochimaru to do this? Seeing that Uchiha Madara's state was exactly the same as that of Uzumaki Kushina, Uchiha Fugaku subconsciously thought that Uchiha Madara was also Orochimaru's doing, at the behest of Uzumaki Nagato. No. Uzumaki Nagato shook his head gently. Then his Rinnegan glowed with a dangerous light. Let's go, look for Orochimaru together. At the other side of a Megakure. Orochimaru was staring blankly at the screen. He didn't expect that, since the death of 3rd Hokage, besides him and Kabuto, who he had taught, there was someone else in the shinobi world who knew the impure world reincarnation technique. Uchiha Madara's body was also resurrected within pure world reincarnation. How could the shinobi world not turn chaotic? Is that the 5 cages of the major shinobi villages? Seeing the 5 awkward figures across Uchiha Madara, Orochimaru licked his dry lips. It seemed that some things were still the same as the future foretold by the exam space. After the death of the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Senju Tsunade succeeded as the 5th Hokage. After Ross's death, Chiyo came to power. Someone reincarnated Madara within pure world reincarnation, and used Madara to fight with the 5 cages. Orochimaru's yellow-brown eyes narrowed quietly like a snake's, as he looked at Madara's impure world reincarnation figure. Originally, he was also studying the possibility of further optimizing the impure world reincarnation technique, but it was put on hold because of the armament hockey, and things were shelved. He didn't think that now he was preempted by others. Orochimaru was unquestionably sure that his opponent's mastery of impure world reincarnation was much more advanced than his own. Because he had the 1st Hokage and the 2nd Hokage in his own hands, and he had tested their powers before. It was better if he didn't control them himself. If he controlled them in battle, their combat strength would plummet. Even a slightly stronger Jonin couldn't be defeated. The other party's impure world reincarnation Madara could turn the 5 cages into this state. This undoubtedly showed that the other's impure world reincarnation was more advanced than his own. Could it be Zetsu? Orochimaru pondered for a moment, increasingly feeling that his suspicions might be correct. His eyes wandered, and the corners of his mouth lifted in a meaningful smile. It just so happened that his experiments had now reached their real-world experimental stage, and originally, he was thinking of summoning a few impure world reincarnation corpses himself. But now, it seemed like he had a better option. Kabuto. Orochimaru called out softly. In the next moment, a figure came out of the darkness behind him. It was Kabuto. Orochimaru-sama, you called. Kabuto, if I ask you to die, will you do it? Orochimaru's eyes narrowed, and his python-like pupils dangerously looked at Kabuto, as if he would strike the moment Kabuto failed to give him the answer he wanted. If Orochimaru-sama wants me to die, why would I bother struggling? Kabuto pushed his glasses quietly, thinking that he might have been exposed as Sasori's undercover agent. Although there was a little panic in his heart, there was nothing strange on his face. Looking at Kabuto, Orochimaru retracted his eyes and raised his hand to summon 2 coffins. On the coffin, the characters for 1 and 2 were written, respectively. The bodies of the 1st Hokage, Senju Hashirama, and the 2nd Hokage, Senju Tobirama, were contained in these coffins. Fortunately, we didn't use them the last time we went to Konoha. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this good setup. Orochimaru looked at the coffins with some gratification, smiled, and continued. I want you to go to Konoha and give these 2 to Tsunade in front of the other cages. Orochimaru once again pulled out a scroll. This is my research on the impure world reincarnation technique, and some speculations on Reaper Death Seal. Take them all. Orochimaru-sama, what are you? Kabuto looked at Orochimaru in disbelief. He didn't understand what Orochimaru was trying to do. I can't believe it. He inexplicably gave me valuable jutsu insight and experimental records. Could it be he's testing me? Kabuto's mind was racing. However, Orochimaru's next words calmed his anxious heart. The 5 cages were beaten so badly by the impure world reincarnated Madara. What do you think they would do when you bring the 1st and 2nd Hokage back to Konoha? Orochimaru licked his lips in excitement, and a hint of red appeared on his sickly face. Kabuto, when the 1st and 2nd Hokage are resurrected by impure world reincarnation, if you were a cage of another village, what would you do? In order to keep Konoha from monopolizing everything, I would bring back the past cages of my own village as well. Hearing Kabuto's answer, Orochimaru's smile grew more and more treacherous. Hahaha, when all the cages of other shinobi villages are resurrected, and the souls of the 3rd and 4th Hokage are still sealed in the Reaper Death Seal, unable to be reborn with the impure world resurrection, I think Konoha would be interested in my Reaper Death Seal. Hearing Orochimaru's plan, Kabuto looked at Orochimaru in shock. He didn't think that Orochimaru would be this crazy. Do you want them to finish the experiment for you? Kabuto had figured it out. Thoroughly figured it out. Because of this, he was even more shocked by Orochimaru's plan, and his admiration for Orochimaru suddenly increased. This was crazy. After a moment of seeing the impure world reincarnation Madara and the 5 cages in a mess, Orochimaru had actually plotted something against them. While he continued to ponder, Orochimaru's somewhat regretful voice already sounded. I should have done these experiments myself, but now that I'm busy, I have to let them help me. It's a pity. Orochimaru's eyes blinked. He didn't tell him the rest of his plans. He knew Kabuto well. Unlike Kimimaro, and this time, what he wanted was more than that. He also had another suspicion, so he didn't tell Kabuto if this suspicion was true. Orochimaru was sure that the next people to be revived by the impure world reincarnation wouldn't only be the past cages. At that time, the domineering Akatsuki would be dragged into a war. As long as they were forced to use the unique armament Haki, they would all become perfect objects of observation for him. Above the exam space, Ryuji hadn't snapped out of his daze. He suspected that he might be dreaming. No, even a dream wouldn't be this outrageous. Uchiha Madara is reincarnated with the impure world resurrection. At this time, are you fucking kidding me? At this time, the impure world reincarnated Uchiha Madara would be invincible. Looking down at Uchiha Madara, who was looking around curiously, Ryuji had a huge headache. This isn't how it's supposed to be impossible. Orochimaru isn't dead yet, and Kabuto should still be gathering intelligence in Konoha at this time. No, Konoha's Chunin exam had ended before it even started, and Kabuto is nowhere to be found. Who resurrected Uchiha Madara? The more Ryuji thought about it, the more confused he became. He realized that what he knew about Naruto could no longer match up with the current situation. What gave Ryuji even more of a headache was that he had thought a Megakure was the safest place, but now, Madara came back to life. No. The first thing Madara would do to resurrect himself completely was to find the Rinnegan. A Megakure is no longer safe. We have to run away before Madara comes. Ryuji didn't think that a Megakure could withstand Madara's two Tengai Shinsei. Haha, you guys have a lot of little tricks up your sleeves. Looking around at the magical space, Uchiha Madara's eyes slightly narrowed. This space had suppressed his strength. Not to mention the Rinnegan now, even his Mangekyo couldn't be brought out, but fortunately, he could still use Jutsu. Your strength has also been suppressed. Uchiha Madara smiled disdainfully. Do you guys think I wouldn't be able to kill you with just a Jutsu? Uchiha Madara assumed an attack stance, intending to strike and outright kill his opponent. He didn't know what this space was, but as long as he killed the Jutsu user among the five, this technique would naturally be eliminated. Whoosh. Uchiha Madara's body moved, and suddenly a violent aura rose up. Just before he rushed toward the five people, the white mist inside the space suddenly surged and quickly formed a huge finger. It accurately held him down and pressed him on the solid ground of the space. Bang. Uchiha Madara was slammed heavily on the ground and looked at the white mist fingers on his body in horror. What kind of attack is this? A Kurigakure secret technique? Or a bloodline limit I don't know of? Uchiha Madara looked at Inoki and others suspiciously, but what made him extremely resentful was that the other five people seemed to ignore him. They weren't looking at him at all. What made him even more puzzled was the unconcealed conversation the five of them were having in a circle. Great, I didn't expect that the exam space would pull us in. It looks like we are destined to die today. While we're at it, we have to figure out a way to seal Uchiha Madara. Chio, you have the highest seal skills here. How long would it take to prepare a seal that could seal Uchiha Madara? Breaking his body up would be enough. Break him apart. It looks like the only way to do that is to use my dust release. Inoki nodded and glanced at the exam space. Seeing that the first question hadn't started yet and there was still time, he quickly said, Dust release is too slow for Madara. It's too easy for him to avoid it. Mizukage, Reikage, Hokage, do you have the means to restrain him? Hearing Inoki, A and Senjutsunade shook their heads simultaneously. Terumi Mei suddenly said, My lava release may be usable, but his Susanoo could resist the corrosion. Leave the Susanoo to the Hokage and me. The fourth Reikage looked serious. Although he wasn't too sure in his mind, he couldn't back down at this time. Good, I'll use my added weight rock technique to help you. In the shinobi world, watching the five cages talk as if no one was watching, everyone was dumbfounded. Why are all of you acting so casual? You're discussing ways to defeat Uchiha Madara right next to him. Or are you even treating him as a human being? Everyone looked at Uchiha Madara, who was suppressed by the white mist finger, and suddenly felt sympathy. Has the situation turned this severe? In the land of iron, a sharp glint flashed in Mifyun's eyes. From Madara's words and with the current situation and state of the five cages, it wasn't difficult to see that the five cages would have died if it wasn't for the exam space. This was why the five cages didn't even care that they were in the exam space, and broadcasted live. They even discussed their next attack so calmly. They're at their limit. They have no time to think about anything else. Mifyun saw everything. Naturally, Jiraiya, at the boundary of the battlefield, also saw it. Kakashi. Can you reverse summon back to Konoha right now? Jiraiya approached Kakashi with a serious expression. He had just returned from Mount Mamboku, and hadn't left a toad in Konoha that could be used for reverse summoning jutsu. Hakken is still in the village. Good. Excellent. Jiraiya nodded, took off the forehead protector on his head, and handed it to Kakashi. Go back to Konoha immediately. Find the 4th Hokage's guard platoon, the ones that can use Flying Thunder formation technique. I have Minato's Flying Thunder God seal here. Tell them to come quickly, and bring my guy. Just tell them that I said so. Saying that, Jiraiya took out a scroll from somewhere and spread it out. Seeing the complex markings on it, Hada Kakashi instantly understood. Sure enough, as a teacher of the 4th Hokage, Jiraiya-sama had the Flying Thunder God seal at hand. Be quick. After giving orders, Jiraiya watched Hada Kakashi disappear, and his expression slightly eased. Might Guy had to come. He didn't need to open all 8 gates, even if he only opened 7 gates. With his strength and the strength of the 5 cages, there was still hope to seal Uchiha Madara. Examination will start soon. Examinees. 6 people exam content. 5 multiple choice questions exam rules. Examinees are divided into 2 teams. They will take turns answering questions. Regardless of right or wrong, answering privileges will be given to the next team after each answer. Exam reward. The team with the highest amount of correct answers will get a chance to draw a prize. Along with the explanation from the exam space, 2 arenas suddenly rose under the group's feet, and Uchiha Madara was released. Standing in his own, as a line of large letters appeared, a giant dice suddenly appeared between the 2 arenas. It quickly rolled and eventually stopped. There was only 1 dot on it. If the number of dots is less than or equal to 3, the side with the fewest number of examinees will answer first. Question 1. Please answer, what is Black Zetsu's identity? A. The creation of Uchiha Madara. B. A derivative of White Zetsu. C. The child of the progenitor of chakra in the shinobi world. That's the question. Uchiha Madara slightly frowned, and the irregular crack on his face made him look very eerie. 3 choices, that's all. Uchiha Madara disdainfully looked at the opposite 5 cages, who was shocked by the question. He increasingly felt that the shinobi of the shinobi world today were declining in each generation. In the Warring States period, apart from Senju Hashirama, there were still some people he thought highly of. That era has come to an end. They were shocked by such a small question. He thought that these 5 people still had a little substance. He felt angry when he thought about it, especially at the one named Senju Tsunade. Clearly, she is Senju Hashirama's granddaughter. Not only did she fail to learn Senju Hashirama's wood release, but she also failed to learn Senjutsu. Even so, she also uses temporary side effects of the reserve seal as her big move. Doesn't she know that her big move is only a passive move for Senju Hashirama? Disgraceful. Uchiha Madara really wanted to drag Senju Tsunade by the collar and tell her that she had disgraced Senju Hashirama. Coldly withdrawing his gaze, Uchiha Madara looked at the exam question. This question was too simple. He could answer it with his eyes closed. He certainly knew how Black Zetsu came to be. When he was on the verge of death, he fused Senju Hashirama's cells. Eternal Mangekyo evolved into Rinnegan, and at the same time, Black Zetsu was created. In a sense, Black Zetsu was just a product of his chakra. Black Zetsu is my creation. Uchiha Madara had his arms folded over his chest and a proud look on his face. This question is too easy. Fuck. Fuck. Somewhere in the shinobi world, seeing that the first question in the exam space was about himself, Black Zetsu's mind exploded. What a frightening exam. Right now, all he could do was burst out cursing. He scolded the exam space for being unreliable and Uchiha Madara for being an idiot. Does he think he's worthy of creating me? Hell no. TSK. Black Zetsu continued to look at the screen indignantly. His affection for the exam space instantly disappeared, directly exposing my identity. Do you think it's too easy for me to resurrect my mother? You just had to add stumbling blocks. Shit. The more Black Zetsu thought about it, the more his mind exploded. He was sure of it. He's fucking convinced. With Uchiha Madara's intelligence, as soon as he finds out that I've been lying to him, he would definitely connect the dots. Black Zetsu thought that when Uchiha Madara finished the exam, he would probably directly come looking for him and question him about everything. Fortunately, I sent Toby to look for Obito. Thinking about the backup plan he had set up, Black Zetsu felt a little more at ease. Looking at Uchiha Madara, who had answered the exam space, Black Zetsu sneered. With the exam type of the exam space this time around, combined with the fact that there were only 3 answer options for this question, it meant the answer to the first question would be answered after 2 more rounds. Please, don't ever ask another question about me. Black Zetsu looked at the screen with a lingering fear, but fortunately, the first question only asked about his identity. He still had ways to stabilize Uchiha Madara, and continue the follow-up plan to take Madara to the moon. But if there were more questions about him, not to mention taking Madara to the moon, if he didn't release the impure world reincarnation at that time, he might have to start planning his escape. No, I can't put all my hopes on the exam space. Black Zetsu looked at the exam screen and began to think of in the broadcast of the exam space. Uchiha Madara's face was instantly gloomy. He didn't know why the 5 cages across the room attached so much importance to answering the exam space, and wasn't sure what would happen after the exam was over. But this was a question that he answered based on his own understanding. I got it wrong. I didn't create Black Zetsu. He has another identity. Could he be a derivative White Zetsu? Thinking about the 10,000 White Zetsu in Black Zetsu's hand, Uchiha Madara deeply pondered it. As Uchiha Madara was thinking, the opposite 5 cages weren't relieved from the shock yet. Even when the right to answer the question was now in their hands, they didn't realize it. The topic of this question was nothing much, but the moment they saw the answers to the first question, the 5 cages froze. Uchiha Madara's creation. They didn't even need to think about this answer, so it was directly excluded. Black Zetsu's presence was revealed as early as the first live broadcast. Therefore, the correct answers could only be B or C. The 5 cages here right now were people who had experienced several exams and had long known the nature of the exam space questions. The answers to all the questions were well documented. Often, the most absurd and impossible was the correct answer. And that's why they were shocked again and again. Therefore, right now, they thought that the most likely answer was C. However, the information revealed by answer C was terrifying. Even if the 5 cages had great mental endurance, they still couldn't help but feel shocked. The child of the progenitor of chakra in the shinobi world. They all knew what chakra was, but what did it mean by the progenitor of chakra? Even the 5 cages, who had access to all the secrets of the shinobi world, at this moment, were confused. They knew the legend of the Sage of 6 Paths, but this progenitor of chakra was really unheard of. Could it be that it's the same as the Sage of 6 Paths? Or perhaps the ancestor of the Sage of 6 Paths? The more the 5 cages thought about it, the more they felt their scalps go numb. At first, they thought that Akatsuki's Uzumaki Nagata was quite powerful, but then, they met Madara, who had been resurrected. They thought that the impure world resurrection Madara was also powerful, and were still unable to accept it. They didn't expect that there was still the progenitor of chakra. And Black Zetsu was most likely the child of the progenitor of chakra. This at the thought that Black Zetsu was most likely in existence on the same level as Sage of 6 Paths, everyone felt their mouths go dry. Please start answering the question as soon as possible. The urging of the exam space startled the 5 cages. They looked at each other in a daze, only to realize that none of them answered the question because they were too shocked. Everyone glanced at Tsunade in motion for her to answer. After all, she was General Counsel of the Allied Shinobi Forces. For this question, our answer is C. Senju Tsunade took it. She didn't notice that there was a slight tremor in her voice. Correct answer. View analysis. Senju Tsunade's voice had just dropped, and the exam space replied that she was correct. In this scene, Uchiha Madara suddenly sneered in his heart, but he looked quietly at Inoki, Senju Tsunade, and others. Sure enough, this space was something they made with their technique. This explains why there were 5 people in the other team and only 1 person in my team. This also explains why I was given the first chance to answer the questions. In Uchiha Madara's view, the dice was just a cover-up. No matter how big it was, he would be the first to answer the questions. Because this was the only way for them to get an advantage. Even Uchiha Madara felt that as long as he was in this space, no matter what he did or did not, he would always be the one wrong. After all, this was the 5 cages' own jutsu. How could he win? It seemed that just now, he was indeed overthinking it. Zetsu's identity, how could I have guessed wrong? He is my own creation. The more Uchiha Madara thought about it, the more he thought it was reasonable. The birth of Black Zetsu was witnessed by him, emerging from the chakra of the demonic statue of the outer path. How could it be the child of some chakra progenitor of the shinobi world? If there really was a chakra progenitor in the shinobi world, why had he, Uchiha Madara, never seen them? I've never heard of it. With his strength and status as Uchiha Madara, if there was really a so-called progenitor of chakra in the shinobi world, then he should be the progenitor of chakra. Dare to fool me. Do you have a death wish? Uchiha Madara coldly grunted. His eyes instantly turned sharp, and a murderous aura in his eyes wasn't concealed in any way as he looked at the 5 cages. He knew that if he wanted to break this jutsu, he first needed to find the wielder of this jutsu among these 5 people, and kill them with a sharp blow. Moreover, Uchiha Madara was sure. He knew that this space not only had the ability to seal their chakra, but also could easily suppress him with that finger mist. Since the 5 cages didn't use the space to suppress him, it meant that they should also abide by the rules of this space. Thinking about the rules, Uchiha Madara raised his eye. He felt that he had seen through everything. Well, then he would like to see what other tricks the 5 cages could use. And the analysis. Seeing the reply from the exam space, Senju Tsunade was stunned. She didn't expect to get a chance to check the analysis just by answering one question correctly, so she quickly nodded her head. Playing video analysis, video analysis. I can't believe it's a video analysis. Inoki's surprised voice immediately rang out. No one knew the difficulty of unlocking video analysis better than him. In the beginning, Akatsuki struggled to get all the questions right before they could get the privilege of viewing a video analysis. In the makeup exams, his Iwagakure was the only one who got the privilege of getting a video analysis. Is video analysis so easy to get now? Terumi Mei's voice rang out. Although it was no different from the usual, everyone heard a sour feeling in her words. Haha, this illusion technique is good. With his arms wrapped around his chest, Uchiha Madara looked up at the image that slowly appeared on the screen, and nodded in approval. Being able to capture him, Uchiha Madara, in this illusion technique, Uchiha Madara acknowledged that this illusion technique was powerful. An image appeared on the screen, a dilapidated and desolate world. There, as if it had just been devastated by war, traces of a battle were clearly visible. When the picture changed, 3 figures appeared in the middle of the screen. In the picture, 2 men each holding a black chakra receiver in their hands, had their other palm pressed against a woman with extremely long hair. This scene didn't surprise people in the shinobi world. After all, it was just one woman fighting 2 men. To everyone's surprise, the 3 of them were flying in midair. And on the ground behind them, a huge monster with countless arms was towering above. At this moment, the huge monster's various arms were draped with countless white cocoons, gently swing, blown by the wind. The denseness of that white cocoon could make patients suffering from trypophobia die a violent death at the sight of it. 10 Tails. Demonic statue of the outer path. Seeing the monster acting as the background, Uchiha Madara's facial expression suddenly changed, and for the first time, a stunned expression appeared on his face. For the first time, he began to wonder whether this really was a trick by the 5 cages. If he hadn't read the stone tablet of the Uchiha clan, he wouldn't even know about the 10 Tails and the demonic statue of the outer path. How would the 5 cages know about it? Uchiha Madara was pretty sure that the monster in the background of the image was the demonic statue of the outer path. It's just that this one was bigger. And looked stronger. Uchiha Madara took a deep look at the screen. What scared him most in the image wasn't the demonic statue of the outer path in the background, nor the 3 people flying in midair. What he was afraid of was those cocoons hanging from the 10 limbs. Is this the infinite Tsukiyomi from the Eye of the Moon plan? Why was it not quite the same as I imagined? Uchiha Madara looked at the image suspiciously and felt it was increasingly strange. The screen's image seemed to stand still. After 2 seconds had passed, it changed. The image drew closer, and those 2 men caught everyone's eye. They were both wearing white full-length kimonos with a pattern of 6 black nagatamas around a high collar. Although the people in the shinobi world didn't know what this represented, the 2 men's looks and eyes really startled them. Both men were born with 2 horns, so they didn't look like ordinary human beings. What silenced everyone was the man on the right. He had 2 horns on his head, brown hair and white coat, and 6 black nagatama patterns on his chest. Quiet. Pin drop silence. Whether it was 6 people in the exam space, or countless people outside the exam space, watching the disappearing image, they were caught in an eerie silence. In the shinobi world, for a moment, it was as if someone had pressed the pause button. Everyone remembered the scene in the picture just now. The progenitor of chakra in the shinobi world was the mother of Black Zetsu and the Sage of 6 Paths. Black Zetsu and the Sage of 6 Paths are actually brothers. And, even more unbelievable, Sage of 6 Paths has been dead for so many years that only his legend remained in the shinobi world, but Black Zetsu is still alive. That jutsu just now is the Chibaku Tensei. In a Megakure, Uzumaki Nagato, who had just arrived at the entrance of Orochimaru's research facility with Uchiha Fugaku, froze when he saw what was on the screen. He looked up at the screen above him in astonishment. What's the matter? Fugaku saw Uzumaki Nagato's abnormality and curiously asked. Hearing Fugaku's inquiry, Uzumaki Nagato gently shook his head and looked back. He was thinking, with the power level of Sage of 6 Paths, what would the Chibaku Tensei become after such a long time? In other words, where is the sealed woman right now? Even Black Zetsu is still alive, then the sealed woman is definitely still alive. Black Zetsu, damn it. Seeing the last image, Uchiha Madara was finally certain that Black Zetsu had tricked him. The examination space was right, and he was wrong. What angered him most was not that Black Zetsu had lied to him about his identity, but that the Eye of the Moon plan had actually been a lie as well. Uchiha Madara's teeth clenched together with a deadly gnashing sound. The Eye of the Moon plan was never the ultimate means of bringing peace to the shinobi world. If it was really about achieving peace in the shinobi world, the Sage of 6 Paths and his mother wouldn't have fought. After all, the shinobi world had only ever heard of positive things about the Sage of 6 Paths since the beginning. Why would the Sage of Six Paths fight with the wielder, his mother, if this technique was beneficial to the shinobi world? It can't be that Sage of Six Paths isn't some creator, but a destroyer, right? The more Uchiha Madara thought about it, the more confused he was. He knew that only Black Zetsu could answer all of his questions. Therefore, he couldn't wait to get Black Zetsu right in front of him, so he could ask him about it. Damn it, Zetsu. The voice that suppressed the extreme emotion emerged from Uchiha Madara's mouth, and the strong killing intent made the 5 cages on the opposite side feel a shiver down their backs. It's just that this was the first time that Uchiha Madara took the exam, and he didn't know that everything he said and did would be broadcasted live to the whole shinobi world. Therefore, everything that Uchiha Madara was doing at this moment was seen by Black Zetsu. In the shinobi world, Black Zetsu looked at Uchiha Madara's figure on the screen with an expressionless face. Seeing Uchiha Madara's resentment, Black Zetsu felt that if he was beside him, he would have been eaten alive by him right now. Black Zetsu withdrew his eyes. He thought that he had paid enough attention to this mysterious exam space, but to his surprise, it was still far from enough. Not only did it reveal his true past, it even showed them the history of what happened back then. It has remarkable means. Black Zetsu somewhat lamented. It knew of his identity. Except for Otsutsuki Kagaya, even Otsutsuki Hagoromo and Himura, those 2 guys didn't know. Now, surprisingly, the exam space knew. And also revealed it to everyone. Listening to the sound of Uchiha Madara gritting his teeth in the exam space, Black Zetsu smiled disdainfully. His eyes wandered, not showing what he was truly thinking. In the exam space. As the shocked emotions of the crowd gradually subsided, the second question of the examination space had appeared. Since the right to answer the question was transferred to Uchiha Madara again, the first answer to the second question was again from Uchiha Madara. Question 2. What is Black Zetsu's reason for resurrecting Uchiha Madara? A. Agreement with Uchiha Madara. B. Request from the White Zetsu Tobi. C. Request from Uchiha Ibito. D. Conditions for resurrecting Otsutsuki Kagaya. Seeing this question, Uchiha Madara's face, which had turned purple, finally looked better. Without the first question just now, he might have chosen option A again. But now I choose option D. The corner of Uchiha Madara's mouth picked up, not even giving the exam space a chance to react. Give me the analysis. Uchiha Madara looked at the screen above with some excitement. He loved the feeling of watching the video just now. He wanted to see what he had done to meet Otsutsuki Kagaya's resurrection requirements. He wanted to take advantage of this analysis to figure out how to disrupt Otsutsuki Kagaya's resurrection. Uchiha Madara. You're looking for death in the shinobi world. Upon witnessing Uchiha Madara's eagerness, Black Zetsu, who guessed Uchiha Madara's intention, instantly went ballistic. As he scolded, the ground around the space he was in burst into a dense mass of wooden spikes. Controlling his impulse to storm off, Black Zetsu withdrew the wooden spikes on the ground and looked at Uchiha Madara above him. This was the first time he truly felt nervous. What kind of analysis will the exam space give Uchiha Madara? If the analysis really showed the requirement for his mother's resurrection, it would be terrible. Looking at Uchiha Madara's eager look, Black Zetsu finally realized the seriousness of the matter. Now, the whole shinobi world knew that his mother was Otsutsuki Kagaya. This would undoubtedly cause trouble for his rescue plan. Moreover, the most frightening thing was that the live broadcast from the exam space had probably alerted the Otsutsuki clan on the moon. With this situation, Black Zetsu could no longer take Uchiha Madara to the moon. Even if he had the means to restrain Madara, he still wouldn't bring him there. After all, his mother had been sealed for thousands of years, and he still didn't know what state she would be in after the seal was broken. His eyes fluctuated a few times. In the end, Black Zetsu could only grind his teeth. No, I can't drag this out any longer. If I delay any longer, the uncertainty of saving Mother would be even greater. Black Zetsu looked serious. The leaves on his head quietly closed up as he burrowed towards the ground. Not long after, he arrived in a large space underground. Glancing at the densely packed White Zetsu below, Black Zetsu's face looked a little better. Although without Uchiha Madara, the strength he prepared had decreased, but Black Zetsu couldn't help it. He gave the White Zetsus a signal, ordering all the White Zetsus to keep up with him. Black Zetsu turned around and led nearly 100,000 White Zetsu towards the special passage between the moon and the earth. Correct answer. This question is too simple, so the analysis is omitted. Looking at the explanation given by the exam space, Uchiha Madara froze. He never thought that the exam space could reply like this. Too simple. Simple. Looking somberly at these words, Uchiha Madara's mood, which had just somewhat eased, sank back down. He felt that he was being mocked. He felt offended. On the other hand, the 5 cages saw that Uchiha Madara got it right and said nothing. And they prepared to answer the next question. Question 3. How did Uchiha Madara, who has the Rinnegan, gain access to 6 paths in Jutsu? A. Evolving the Rinnegan. B. Becoming the Jubi's Jinchuriki. C. Eating the fruit of the divine tree. D. Seizing power from Otsutsuki Kagaya. Seeing the question and the answer list of the third question, Tsunade and the others froze simultaneously. Uchiha Madara had the Rinnegan. How was he able to use the 6 paths in Jutsu? What is the 6 paths in Jutsu? Senju Tsunade's face was a little flushed. With her insight, it was the first time she heard the term 6 paths in Jutsu. However, these days, they had heard about 6 paths pain quite a few times. Glancing at the other cages and seeing that their faces were also full of incomprehension, Tsunade sighed. I don't know the answer. What do you guys think? The 6 paths in Jutsu should be the Sage of 6 Paths powers. Listening to Senju Tsunade, Inoki hesitated for a moment, then said, if the 6 paths in Jutsu represents the techniques used in the 6 path mode, then we can exclude option A from this question. Inoki lowered his voice as if he was afraid of being heard by Madara. He was a good strategist and also had experienced answering questions from the exam space before. So he had become more and more comfortable with the examination. He even figured out a way to answer multiple choice questions. When the correct answer couldn't be selected in one go, one should try to eliminate the most unlikely answers. In this way, even if the last answer relied on luck, the accuracy rate was much higher. I agree with the Tsuchikage. If the Rinnegan is upgraded to the Rin Sharingan, then Uchiha Madara wouldn't be at the level of the 6 Paths Sage, but at the level of the progenitor of chakra. The fourth Reikage added, and beside him, Chiyo and Terumi Mei nodded approvingly. If you exclude the first option, I think the fourth option could also be excluded. They looked at Terumi Mei suspiciously. He was a bit puzzled, but just before he could say anything, Terumi Mei's voice had already sounded. Although Uchiha Madara is very strong, stronger than the 5 of us combined, he's certainly still a long way from the Sage of 6 Paths. Terumi Mei's voice was slightly louder, and her beautiful eyes glanced at Uchiha Madara, who was coldly looking at them. Everyone saw the last question. Otsutsuki Kagaya is the progenitor of chakra, stronger than Sage of 6 Paths. And Uchiha Madara doesn't even have the 6 path mode, so naturally, it's impossible for him to seize Otsutsuki Kagaya's powers. Listening to Terumi Mei's explanation, Chiyo's aged eyes had narrowed to a slit. She thought that Terumi Mei's idea was a bit too simple. What if he has some kind of means to do so? Uchiha Madara's methods can't be underestimated. Chiyo's words made A and Inoki nod in approval. For the cages, when they were inside their villages, everything seemed optimistic, while outside their villages, everything seemed pessimistic. After all, they couldn't just solve problems in an arena. Did you guys forget about Black Zetsu? Terumi Mei's rhetorical question startled the other 3 at the same time. What did this have to do with Black Zetsu? Black Zetsu didn't only trick Uchiha Ibito, but Madara too. Otherwise, Madara wouldn't have chosen the wrong option for the first question. Moreover, didn't you notice Uchiha Madara's expression just now? What are you trying to say? The fourth Reikage directly interrupted Terumi Mei's words. He couldn't stand such a nagging woman. Why can't she just get to the point? Women's so long-winded. The interrupted Terumi Mei glanced at the fourth Reikage and speechlessly rolled her eyes. What I wanted to say is, who do you think could trap Kagaya when Black Zetsu is beside her? The fourth Reikage heard the annoyed tone in Terumi Mei's voice, but didn't care at all. What he cared about was what Terumi Mei had said. It really makes sense. The Black Zetsu who could trick Madara was a master of schemes. If Black Zetsu was around, let alone Uchiha Madara, throughout the whole shinobi world, who could trap Kagaya? Please continue to answer the question. The prompt from the exam space caused the 5 people, who were discussing their answers, to slightly change their expressions. Then, they all looked at Tsunade. Tsunade was the general counsel of the allied shinobi forces, and had demonstrated her superb adaptability and command ability in the battle just now. Therefore, they unanimously decided to let Senju Tsunade do it for the final choice of this question. Hokage, you choose one from the remaining 2 answers. Inoki looked at Tsunade expectantly. Although uncertain, there was a good chance that the correct answer was among the 2 remaining answers. Choose one from the 2. He hoped that Tsunade would be lucky enough to pick the correct answer straight away. Me. Hearing Inoki's words, Senju Tsunade suddenly looked up in shock. Meeting his eyes, seeing the expectation in his gaze, Tsunade's heartbeat suddenly missed a beat. Choose one from 2. Isn't it a bet? She really wanted to ask these 4 people around her. Don't you guys know my title of Konoha's legendary sucker? Don't you know that I have no skill but losing and gambling throughout my entire life? She really wanted to tell the few of them that she had just outed herself the other day. Although no one knew it, now, when she saw Jiraiya, she really felt uncomfortable. Hokage, don't be nervous. The fourth Reikage saw that Tsunade was hesitant to make a choice, and thought that Tsunade was afraid of the pressure. When this encounter with the Chihamidara is played out, each of our villages will owe you a favor. It's just a question. There's nothing to be nervous about. Indeed, Hokage, make your choice. Hearing the Reikage say so, the few others immediately expressed their positions. Don't worry, Hokage, since we asked you to choose, you won't be blamed if you get it wrong. When we get out of the exam space, we're still going to face a deadly battle. Maybe we might all leave together. Inoki comforted her with a smile. He unexpectedly felt good at this moment when the 5 cages cooperated in answering the questions together. There are still advantages to living for too long. At least, I can see the 5 cages working together, whether it's fighting or answering these questions. Haha. Inoki laughed as he said so with an indescribable relief in his voice. Humph. Too depressing. The 4th Reikage curled his lips and spoke with a bit of disdain in his voice. You're growing pretentious in old age. I didn't expect that the iron-blooded 3rd Tsuchikage, Inoki of both scales, could still act all mushy. The 4th Reikage's voice continued, Hokage, hurry up and make your choice. Don't dawdle. However, no matter how much the 4th Reikage urged, Senju Tsunade didn't reply. It's not that she ignored them, but Tsunade's attention wasn't on them at all. At that moment, there was a fierce battle in her mind. She was caught in the conflict of choosing B or choosing C, B becoming the Jubi's Jinchuriki, C eating the fruit of the divine tree. Senju Tsunade, like a young child holding candy in both hands, pondered and looked from left to right and right to left. Tsunade thought that option B was much worse than option C. Although she didn't know what a Jubi was, she did know what a Jinchuriki was. A Jinchuriki shouldn't be associated with a 6-path mode, no matter how she thought about it. Moreover, Tsunade could clearly remember that in the video just now, the 2 figures had the 6-path sage's level of power. This made her want to rule out option B even more. After all, even if it was a Jubi, at most, there could only be one such tailed beast in the shinobi world, and there could only be one Jinchuriki for it. It obviously couldn't create 2 existence with the power level of 6 paths. After thinking about option B and option C again, Senju Tsunade suddenly felt that the correct answer had appeared. In the background of the video, just before, there was indeed a huge monster that looked like a big tree, and had the Sharingan. Although the Sage of 6 Paths sealed it at the end of the video, Tsunade saw that it still had many white cocoons hanging on it. Therefore, Tsunade thought that the strange tree might have used people in the white cocoons as nourishment, and grew strange fruits that could turn a Rinnegan user into someone with the strength of the 6 Path Sage. That's exactly how Sage of 6 Paths, and that person could use 6 Paths in Jutsu, because they ate that kind of fruit. And Ichihamidara, because he had the Rinnegan, may have found the place where the divine tree was sealed, just as the divine tree was bearing new fruit after so many years. Therefore, Ichihamidara ate the fruit and was able to use 6 paths in Jutsu. It's clear. All clear. Thinking that she had figured everything out, Senju Tsunade's eyes brightened and burst into dazzling light. Although there were still some flaws in some places, Senju Tsunade thought the correct answer should be this one. Although the answer was confirmed in her mind, Senju Tsunade's inner turmoil didn't decrease. Last time, her hemophobia inexplicably disappeared, so she made up her mind to always gamble the opposite way in the future. For example, right now if she wanted to choose one, she should bet contrary to that option. After hesitating for a few seconds, Senju Tsunade finally made a decision. The exam is not a gamble, it shouldn't be. Besides, I worked so hard to analyze this question, which was both organized and logical. How can it be called gambling? Fuck it. Senju Tsunade's eyes burst out a burst of brilliant light. She didn't believe it, she didn't believe that she could still be wrong in this situation. Go against fate, right now. If I'm really wrong this time, I promise to do the opposite of whatever choice I make in the future. Exam space, for this question, I choose C. Incorrect answer. Almost instantly, the result was announced. At the moment when the result was pronounced, Tsunade's expectant eyes were instantly glazed over, and she seemed to fall back as if petrified. Terumi was stunned and quickly leaned over to hold her up. Hokage, what's wrong with you? Did you consume too much from the battle just now? I'm fine. Tsunade took a deep breath, and her chest rose and fell in waves. Then, she stood up, rubbing her forehead that was a little hot. The moment she left Terumi's support, her body felt as if her soul was drifting off for a few moments. At the moment, Senju Tsunade only felt that everything was meaningless. Hahaha, Kano has legendary sucker is really something. In the shinobi world, in a casino. With the increasing frequency of exams, it became common for casinos to use exam space questions for gambling. Because of the fairness and uncertainty of the exam space, this new type of gambling had won almost everyone's favor. Therefore, as long as the live broadcast was started in every exam space, the atmosphere in the casino would be very lively. At this moment, seeing the familiar Tsunade make a wrong bet again, everyone who knew her laughed happily. After all, Tsunade had now become the Hokage, and the gap between them and Tsunade grew bigger. Seeing her right now, they had a close feeling. Konoha's legendary sucker. Are you talking about Tsunade-sama of Konoha? A newcomer didn't know about Tsunade, and instantly someone was very happy to tell him the story of Tsunade. He didn't forget to add how much money Tsunade had lost to him that year. In response, almost all the veterans in the casino began to discuss how much money Tsunade had owed them. The group of people finished giving the newcomer an introduction, and looked at the shocked youngster with a grin. Do you know what the correct answer to this question should be? No, I don't know. The newcomer shook his head. He wasn't even a shinobi. How would he know the correct answer to this question? Ha 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 ha, it seems that you haven't understood the magic of Konoha's legendary sucker. Seeing the newcomer's dumbfounded look, the old gambler laughed and was happy enough to explain to him. Believe me, the answer to this question should be B. The correct answer to this question is B. Becoming a Jinchuriki to the Jubi, one could achieve the 6 paths in Jutsu. Uchiha Madara's voice slowly sounded, and almost everyone could hear the arrogance in his words. His eyes swept over the 5 cages' faces, taking in their respective expressions, as Uchiha Madara's voice continued to ring out. The Jubi is the outer shell of the demonic statue of the outer path and fusion of all the 9-tailed beasts. After the fusion, it would have the power comparable to the Sage of 6 Paths. As Uchiha Madara finished, his red 3-tomo eyes looked upward. Everything he said was written on the Uchiha clan tablet, together with how the eternal Mangekyo could evolve into the Rinnegan, the infinite Tsukiyomi, the Eye of the Moon, and so on. Since Black Zetsu deceived him, and the effect of the Eye of the Moon recorded on the clan tablet wasn't real, Uchiha Madara had reason to believe that many things on the tablet were tampered with by Black Zetsu. So, at the moment, in the 5 cages' opinion, Uchiha Madara arrogantly leaked information. In reality, it was nothing more than his verification of the content and a test for the exam space. Because of the analysis of the first question, Uchiha Madara had basically believed in the divine nature of the exam space, but he was still ready to test it out. Of course, this was also because Uchiha Madara didn't know that he was being broadcasted live to the whole shinobi world. If he knew, he would definitely conceal the information. After all, currently, his Rinnegan wasn't with him. And he said so because, in his mind, the 5 cages were as good as dead. Dead people couldn't leak secrets. When Uchiha Madara's words fell, the exam space responded. Correct answer, extra reward. Examinee provided the correct analysis. Reward +5. There's an extra reward for providing an analysis. Uchiha Madara was stunned. He didn't understand what was going on until he read the relevant prompt. To put it simply, if Uchiha Madara passed this exam, he would get more rewards. If the 5 cages passed, Uchiha Madara would get nothing. Shaking his head, Uchiha Madara didn't even care about the reward. Instead, he cared a lot about this third question the exam space just asked. Will I become a Sage of 6 Paths? When he thought of the future that was determined by the exam space, Uchiha Madara's pupils shrank slightly. He was now in an impure world reincarnated state, and had to be resurrected before he could become a Jinchuriki for the Jubi. That was to say, someone would use the Rinnegan to use the Samsara of Heavenly Life technique for him, and revive Uchiha Madara. Madara already had a person for this plan in mind, or rather, he had already chosen someone. Uzumaki Nagato. That boy's Rinnegan was his own, and he had his own setup on it. As long as Nagato saw him, everything would be done. Becoming the Sage of 6 Paths, Uchiha Madara was somewhat interested, and his heart was on fire. But then, he had some doubts. If there was no exam space, and he became the Sage of 6 Paths and launched the Eye of the Moon plan, wasn't he just following Black Zetsu's plan? Then how would I end up? Everything that Black Zetsu did was to unseal Lord Satsuki Kagaya. However, what does this have to do with being the Sage of 6 Paths? Moreover, with the fusion of the Jubi, becoming the Sage of 6 Paths, the yin-yang release in hand, and the massive life force of the demonic statue of the outer path in my body, there is no possibility of death. Then why did Black Zetsu guide me into doing this? For a while, Uchiha Madara's mind was puzzled. He was looking forward to reading the 4th question that was slowly emerging, hoping to gain more clues. In a megacure, looking at the exam space where the correct answer was announced, Uzumaki Nagato's eyes slightly moved. Now, he understood it. Black Zetsu and Obito collected the tailed beasts to seal them in the demonic statue of the outer path. It was all actually in preparation for the Jubi's Jinchuriki. Rinnegan's host plus Jubi equals Sage of 6 Paths. Almost instantly, Uzumaki Nagato formed this equation in his mind. Nagato-san, what are you thinking? Seeing the fluctuating gaze in Uzumaki Nagato's eyes, Uchiha Fugaku's expression remained unchanged and asked as if he hadn't noticed anything. I'm thinking that if Uchiha Madara could do it, why can't I? Uzumaki Nagato's frankness stunned Uchiha Fugaku. He didn't expect Uzumaki Nagato would just tell him everything without any precautions. Seeing Uchiha Fugaku's doubts, Uzumaki Nagato slightly smiled. Never mind. I always try to trust the people I employ. Uchiha Fugaku nodded expressionlessly, seemingly as calm as usual. But only Uchiha Fugaku knew that at this moment there was a huge wave in his heart. Trust the people I employ, trust. This if other people said that to him, Uchiha Fugaku would have sneered at the other person for not having any of the basic qualities of a shinobi. But when that person was Uzumaki Nagato, Uchiha Fugaku suddenly felt a little touched. At this moment, Uchiha Fugaku felt that he finally understood why Uzumaki Nagato could gather such a strong group of people as Akatsuki in such a small village as Megakure. Why the Akatsuki, this group of people would risk their lives for Uzumaki Nagato, regardless of what would happen, even at the expense of being enemies with the entire shinobi world. All this was because of Uzumaki Nagato's temperament and boldness. This commitment. At that moment, Uchiha Fugaku felt as if he saw Uchiha Madara's shadow in Uzumaki Nagato. That kind of power. The strong self-confidence. Suddenly, Uchiha Fugaku felt a little ridiculous. If Konoha's second Hokage and third Hokage was of the same caliber as Uzumaki Nagato, perhaps. Haha. Shaking his head in self-deprecation, he shook the nonsensical thoughts away. Uchiha Fugaku looked at Uzumaki Nagato. His eyes flashed for a moment, and he finally put his thoughts to words. Nagato-san, have you ever thought that maybe your eyes is Uchiha Madara's? Was that what you wanted to ask? Nagato turned around and smiled at Uchiha Fugaku, causing Uchiha Fugaku to freeze. He thought about Uzumaki Nagato's reaction, perhaps shocked, perhaps disbelieving and frantically refuting him, and would come up with evidence to convince him. Then he would be desperate, hesitating, and would try to persuade him to restore his own confidence. Instead, why did he look like he already knew it? Originally, I felt that these eyes weren't mine. When they were first awakened, it felt as if they rejected my body. At first, I thought it was the after effects of my recent awakening, but now that I think about it, it obviously wasn't. There was a rare hint of melancholy in Uzumaki Nagato's voice, and Uchiha Fugaku knew that it was his recollection of the past. Sure enough, not long after, he heard Uzumaki Nagato say, "Both the Sharingan of your Uchiha clan and the Byakugan of the Hyuga clan could return their eyes to their original state, but my eyes can only be kept open and can't be hidden." That's when it made me suspicious, and it was after watching the video of the survival exam that I was truly sure. Rinnegan is the evolved Sharingan, and I do not have the bloodline of the Uchiha clan to awaken a Sharingan, let alone a Rinnegan. So, it's a little hard to accept, but I know that these eyes are, indeed, not my own. With that, Uzumaki Nagato's gaze went to Uchiha Madara on the screen and shrugged his shoulders. Now that Uchiha Madara is resurrected, whose eyes are these? Can't you guess? Uchiha Fugaku was stunned to see Uzumaki Nagato so calm. He was completely confused. He began to suspect that Uzumaki Nagato was abnormal. If this was a normal person, he would have broken down by now, right? Aren't you afraid that Uchiha Madara might have left some kind of technique on your eyes? I'm afraid. Uzumaki Nagato replied without hesitation, and that decisive look drove Uchiha Fugaku nuts. Afraid but still so calm. Uchiha Fugaku stared at Uzumaki Nagato with his eyes, his expression fluctuating several times. As if he had made up his mind, he then said, "I have a pair of Mangekyou Sharingan in my hand. If you want to exchange them, I can. Why should I change them?" Nagato's strange rhetorical question directly interrupted Uchiha Fugaku's words. Then, he said something that almost made Uchiha Fugaku not go crazy. "Uchiha Madara gave me these eyes. Why should I exchange them? He himself gave these things to me. Could he really?" Listening to Uzumaki Nagato's somewhat reasonable and completely unreasonable words, Uchiha Fugaku had begun to feel that his IQ fell short. Before he could think clearly, Uzumaki Nagato's voice sounded again. "I still have to use these eyes to achieve 6 paths. Why would I exchange them? Alas, the headache Naruto certainly wouldn't give the Kyuubi to me. I wonder if it's possible to only use the chakra of the tailed beasts and demonic statue of the outer path." Listening to Uzumaki Nagato talking to himself, Uchiha Fugaku felt like he was going numb. No. Is this really the time to talk about this? I was trying to say that when Uchiha Madara comes looking for them, you can't do anything. Akatsuki can't possibly block him. In order to improve his persuasiveness, Uchiha Fugaku pointed at the 5 cages. His meaning was self-evident. The 5 cages can't stop him. You can't stop him. How could Akatsuki do it? If I don't do it, don't I still have you? There's also Uzumaki Kushina, who is also resurrected by Impure World Reincarnation Technique. I think that Madara is going to come soon. At that time, the Impure World reincarnated Uzumaki Kushina, Haiden, and Kakuzu should go up first. You attack close range with the complete Susanoo, Tadara, and Sasori will assist with the long-range attack, and the rest of Akatsuki will be distractions. I don't believe that we won't be able to beat Uchiha Madara. Hearing Uzumaki Nagato's words, Uchiha Fugaku suddenly went blank. Just as his heart was moved by Uzumaki Nagato, it instantly vanished. This was how he arranged everything. It was as if he was tricked into selling himself, but still had to count the money for this guy. Suddenly, Uchiha Fugaku noticed that something was wrong. What about you? Me. Uzumaki Nagato pointed his finger at himself, not understanding why Uchiha Fugaku was asking such a simple question. Uzumaki Nagato's strange eyes made Uchiha Fugaku's scalp tingle. He was about to run away when Uzumaki Nagato's righteous voice rang out. I would obviously be lying in ambush with the six-path pains. I'll try to find an opportunity to send Uchiha Madara into space with Chibaku Tensei. In the exam space, Uchiha Madara was surprised to find that he was already looking forward to the next question. These questions were mixed with glimpses of the future, and the charm of prying into the future was attracting him by leaps and bounds. Uchiha Madara had always thought that most people in the shinobi world were too stupid. They were full of regrets about the past, and maintained a ridiculous sense of awe about the future. Only he, himself, was the opposite. He firmly believed that the future was created by oneself. Whether it be the ultimate peace in the shinobi world or proving to Senju Hashirama that his ideas were the right ones. Although, in the future, he was blinded by Black Zetsu and embarked on a well-designed path. But now, everything had changed, hadn't it? Now that Uchiha Madara licked his lips, and his eyes were full of fanaticism. He was confident that his strength could suppress everything in this era without Hashirama. Originally, he also felt that there was nothing worth looking forward to except realizing real peace in the shinobi world. But now, the appearance of the exam space made him feel even more challenged by everything that would happen next in the shinobi world. Just as Uchiha Madara's thoughts were flying, the fourth question had begun to surface in the exam space. The moment he saw the title, Uchiha Madara's mind was blown. He looked at the question with horror. Uchiha Madara's face sank. He stared at the answers to the fourth question, and his hands unconsciously squeezed. He didn't expect that he was just thinking about it, and now the exam space had taken it as a subject. Question 4. What was the cause of six-path Uchiha Madara's death during the Fourth World War? A. He was ambushed by Black Zetsu and died when his heart was hollowed out. B. He was besieged by all the Hokages of the past and died in exhaustion. C. Killed when Might Guy kicked his head off. D. Sealed by Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke and died. Uchiha Madara's eyes were wide open as he stared to death at the options for the fourth question, one by one. The first option caught his eyes. When he saw the words Black Zetsu, Uchiha Madara's teeth instantly grinded together viciously. Black Zetsu. It's Black Zetsu again. Why is he everywhere? From being alive to being dead, to being resurrected, to being dead again. TSK Great, a one-stop life and death cycle service. The cold glint flashed in Uchiha Madara's eyes. He decided that he would go straight to Uzumaki Nagato when he finished answering the questions in the exam space. After finding Uzumaki Nagato and getting him to bring himself back to life, he was going to look for Black Zetsu to have a good talk. As for whether talking with Fire Release, Wood Release, or Susanoo, that depended on Black Zetsu's fate. Thinking about it, Zetsu was the son of Otsutsuki Kagaya, who had lived in the shinobi world for eons. He should be able to withstand his anger. Also, what Uchiha Madara wanted to ask right now was what Black Zetsu had done to the stone tablet of the Uchiha family, and what the original content of the tablet was. As for why not directly go to Black Zetsu after the exam, Uchiha Madara's face sank. Black Zetsu was the wielder of his impure world reincarnation, and had the ability to dismiss it. Although he had malicious thoughts about Black Zetsu, option A was directly swept away by Uchiha Madara. He admitted that Black Zetsu's scheming ability was powerful, but Madara didn't believe that Black Zetsu could sneak up on him and kill him. Not to mention Six-Path Madara, even in his normal state, Uchiha Madara felt that Black Zetsu didn't have that ability. Furthermore, with the recovery ability of the Six Paths, not to mention hollowing out his heart, even if half of his body were destroyed, he wouldn't die. Therefore, Uchiha Madara thought that A was definitely not the correct answer. As for B, besieged by all the Hokages of the past and died in exhaustion. Seeing this option, Uchiha Madara shook his head even more disdainfully. The Hokages. How can they be worthy? In Uchiha Madara's opinion, there were no other worthy Hokages in Konoha, except for Senju Hashirama. Senju Tobirama could barely be counted as half a Hokage. And Senju Tsunade, could she really be called a Hokage? As for option C, Uchiha Madara hesitated when he saw that Might Guy would blow his head off. Uchiha Madara pondered for a moment and took this answer as a backup option. He searched his memory carefully and found that there was no such person as Might Guy in his memory. Might Guy, who is that? Then, Uchiha Madara looked at the last option and suddenly paused. Who are Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke? On this side, Uchiha Madara thought that neither one was the right answer, while on the other side, the 5 Kages thought that either one was the right answer. Needless to say, Black Zetsu was at the same level as the Sage of 6 Paths. No one would believe that he wouldn't be able to kill Uchiha Madara with a sneak attack. As for Might Guy, who hadn't seen how terrifying Might Guy was in the last exam, the 5 Kages felt that if Guy really recklessly kicked Uchiha Madara's head, even if it was 6 Path Madara, there was still the possibility of directly killing him. As for option C, although all the other Kages except for Tsunade didn't want this to be true, everyone knew that the 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato would be resurrected in the future. Since 4th Hokage could be resurrected, the resurrection of the other Hokages wouldn't seem impossible. Inoki deeply sighed. At this moment, he was incomparably weary. Seeing the terrifying Uchiha Madara, he also felt that only the resurrection of Konoha's 2nd Hokage, Senju Tobirama, could resist Madara's might. But all of them resurrected thinking of his naive thoughts when the exam space first appeared. Inoki couldn't wait to slap himself. At that time, he felt that it was better to let Uzumaki Naruto grow up after finding out about the resurrection of the 4th Hokage, and everything would end well. The second time, the exam space convinced him that Uzumaki Naruto would grow up and Namikaze Minato would be resurrected. And that's all at that time. He was still made to think like that, but now that point had turned into the Hokages wouldn't be resurrected as a group, right? This is good. Then the answer was clear. The Hokages of Konoha would be resurrected as a group. Adding in Tsunade, adding in Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke in option D. Damn it, Konoha will be the main player of the 4th Shinobi World War. At this moment, Inoki couldn't wait to go back in time and sew his own mouth shut. But at this moment, Inoki's heart actually had a hint of gratitude. Fortunately, Akatsuki kidnapped Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke at this moment. He didn't know whether his mouth brought bad luck or was actually a prophet. Speaking of bringing bad luck, the resurrection of Konoha's past Kages was certainly somewhat unfortunate for the other shinobi villages. Speaking of being a prophet, the resurrection of Konoha's past Kages was certainly somewhat fortunate for the other shinobi villages. At this moment, Inoki once again felt the feeling he got from Naruto at that time. That ambivalent feeling of wanting the other person to grow up but not wanting them to grow up. More importantly, conflicted and powerless. If only a Wakugure had a way to resurrect the past Tsuchikage-samas. With them here, Inoki deeply sighed. At this moment, he seemed to look much older. At this moment, he really felt old, both physically and mentally. When this is over, I should let Deidara come back and take the role of the 4th Tsuchikage. After the Tsuchikage appointment ceremony, we should have Deidara and Kurosuchi's wedding. While I still have a few years to live, I have to urge the two of them to work hard and give birth to a few little grandchildren to accompany me. On this side, Inoki had begun to consider the names of Deidara and Kurosuchi's children, while on the other side, the Reikage, Hokage, and Mizukage were fiercely arguing with each other. Chiyo, on the other hand, watched slowly, seemingly not caring at all about the correctness or incorrectness of the exam question. In fact, Chiyo really didn't care at all. She even hoped that Uchiha Madara would kill all 5 of them. Anyway, her son Agakure was the weakest. In addition, the recent loss of 2 Kazukiges. What's more, she also gave everything to Abizo before departure. If Uchiha Madara directly killed them all, it just so happens that other shinobi villages would also lose their Kages. The blow they would receive was even greater than Son Agakure, which amounts to bringing everything back into balance. Although Chiyo knew that she was wrong, it was the way her older generation thought. The idea of putting the interests of her own village above all others. Chiyo glanced at Inoki. She knew that Inoki was the same kind of person as herself. Seeing that Inoki looked serious, thinking about something, Chiyo also slowly closed her eyes. Although she wanted everyone to die together, she wasn't a fool like Krasa, playing tricks behind these people's backs. In the next battle, she wanted to fight with the will to die. I don't know why Might Guy's 8 gates is such rubbish. But Might Guy is powerful. You haven't truly experienced it. The 4th Reikage faced Senju Tsunade and Tsurumime with cold eyes. That attack could make me give up my resistance. I can safely tell you that if Might Guy kicks 6 Path Madara in the head, even if he's 6 Path Madara, he will definitely die. The 4th Reikage didn't want to tell these 2 women, but his heart still palpitated at the thought of Guy's Red Dragon. The jutsu named Night Guy was several times more powerful and terrifying than Uchiha Madara's attack. Even now, he still hadn't figured out a way to solve that Red Dragon. Therefore, he firmly believed that option C was the correct answer. To convince the 2 stubborn women in front of him, he didn't hesitate to directly diss Might Guy in the live broadcast of the exam space. On the edge of the battlefield, when the group of shinobi heard the fourth Raikage's words, they immediately looked at the man in green tights beside Jiraiya. At the moment, his reddened face had turned a purplish violet, and even his dark skin couldn't hide his shame. In fact, if there wasn't a battle ahead, Might Dai wanted to dig a hole and bury himself in it. Such shame. It's so humiliating. Most of all, he not only lost his own reputation, but also lost the reputation of the 8 gates and his own son. This made him so ashamed that he wanted to find a crack in the ground to dive into. When Might Dai was wallowing in shame, 4 figures suddenly appeared beside him. To be precise, 3 figures forming a circle, surrounding a guy wearing the same green tights as Might Dai. The next moment, a pair of thick palms directly embraced Might Dai. "Father, let me get back the respect you had lost." Might Dai's warm voice rang in Dai's ears. It was obviously a small voice, but it sounded like thunder in Might Dai's ears. The reliability and protectiveness in that voice made Might Dai instantly tear up. "My son Guy. You've grown up. Guy, you're here." Jiraiya suddenly had a smile on his face when he saw them coming. Guy greeted Jiraiya with a sullen face, and then his eyes turned to Uchiha Madara in the exam space broadcast, thinking, time is really an interesting thing. At that time, his father protected him with his life, and now he had grown to the point where he could protect his father. The years had been unforgiving. Fortunately, he had never given up through the years either. And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.